Welcome to Pensar Basketball Live. Another loss. What was that thing that Cade Cunningham said after the Detroit Pistons lost to the Utah Jazz last night? I don't feel good. That's kind of how I feel about the Toronto Raptors right now. I don't feel good. Okay, now the Raptors have been blowing first quarters pretty much the entire month. I don't think they've won a single first quarter the entire month. Tonight they come out to a hot start, 37-28 in the first quarter, and things are clicking. The defense is clicking, transition is clicking, Jakob Poeltl is clicking. Clearly, he and Darko Rajakovic had a conversation about his role within the offense and how he can better be utilized, and I think it worked. I think it was great, and they really exploited, the defensive liabilities on the Sixers, and there are quite a few of them. Despite Nick Nurse's reputation as being a defensive coach, he doesn't quite have the tool chest of defenders. Even though the Sixers are a top six defense, I think the Raptors can run on them, and they did. And they exploited some of their slower-footed guys, and of course, Joel Embiid tweaks his ankle, and that was certainly something to exploit if the Raptors had thought to do so. So the first quarter ends up great. The starters looked really good. I think it was very positive, and then the bench came in. Darko Rajakovic, of course, tweaking his rotations a little bit today. Scotty getting a slightly more extended run. Then there was a lineup with Scotty and Pascal on the bench. It was interesting. I mean, it was something different. Otto Porter gets extended run. But then you end up having a couple of lineups, interestingly enough, without a point guard. And it was good, and then it wasn't so good. And it's funny because it really just starts with this team with one guy going outside of the offense, and suddenly everybody starts doing it. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, it started with Precious Achiuwa. In that second quarter, he just kind of goes out and he does something stupid, and then Gary does something stupid, and then it's just like it's back to back to back to back. Precious Achiuwa gets a quick hook. Dennis Schroeder comes in. I don't think I've ever been happy to see Dennis Schroeder come into a game in my life for any team, in any capacity, in any walk of life. But I was happy to see him come back into the game. And the Raptors got better. I mean, they were holding a lead, they were losing the lead, and then they started to, get it back again. And, despite their best efforts, right around the end of the first half, they started to lose it again. And the Sixers closed the gap. And, the Raptors only put up 21 points after putting up 37 points in the first quarter. They only put up 21 points in that second quarter. And that was really the beginning of the end for the Raptors. They come out listless. They fall 68-60 to start the third. The starters, dig a hole. Then they kind of come back into it, and then Dennis Schroeder comes back into the game, and it's curtains. It was really bad. Dennis in the second half, really good at Chua in the second half. It's really like one of these guys is always screwing everything up. And tonight, I think you got really good, inspired defense from Pascal Siakam. I've been very critical of his defense lately, and he played well tonight. I think he ran in transition. I think he was effective. He got on the glass. He just played with a little bit more juice and energy. Maybe it was, going up against Joel Embiid. Maybe it was going up against his ex-coach. I think Scotty played well. I think he pushed the pace. His numbers may not really jump out at you like 30 points, 10 rebounds, etc., like the last game. But I think he played a really good game, and he got onto the weak side defense, and he had 4 blocks, and I think he was impactful. I think Gary was all right. Let's take a look, just at how the game kind of went there. So again, the Raptors, that red line, it was all good right until the middle of the second quarter, and they just could not hold it. The Sixers overtook and then never looked back, and it was over from that point on. In terms of, box score, I mean, statistically, you could say this was Jakob Poeltl's best game. Certainly, you could make that case. I just think defensively, he was very compromised. He was a really big part of why Joel Embiid got going. I think he was he was a weak link defensively, and he has been quite a bit of a weak link pretty much all year. I think Dennis Schroeder was terrible. You want my honest opinion? I think he was absolutely awful. In the second half, he was awful. He wasn't Precious Achiuwa in the second quarter. Congratulations. He was really off the ball in the first quarter, and I think that worked. It was the best version of him that he can sort of unlock, that lower usage, 16, 15, 18% usage. Interestingly enough, the Raptors do close out the game without Dennis Schroeder, which I thought was like, cool. Interesting. First time I've seen that in a really long time. So that was good. Gary Trent Jr. was great off the bench. I liked it. It was tough shot making. He made his threes. He made 5 threes off the bench. He was good. Malachi Flynn, Otto Porter only make one shot apiece, but I think they were both decent. I have no complaints really there. Precious Achiuwa was horribly inefficient, but I liked the second half more than his first half. He finished the game with 4 points, 6 rebounds, 2 steals. I'm going to ignore Jalen McDaniels and his 3 points and Grady Dick and his 0 points because they kind of came on towards the very end of the game. In terms of the starters, I think OG was mediocre. His defense was not great again, and this has been a trend. Scotty Barnes, again, weak side defense was great. Transition offense was great. Playmaking was great. A little high on the turnovers. I think he had a couple of really, really oof, you don't need to make that. But overall, I think he played reasonably well. Great game for Pascal Siakam. Got to the line 12 times. Really been a weakness so far this year. Not getting to the line enough. Puts up 31 points. Hey, man, if he's a trade candidate right now, you need games like this. If you're wondering, when did the Raptors make a trade for Rudy Gay, or when did they trade Rudy Gay? They were 6 games under 500. Guess where they are right now? They're 6 games under 500. So all things considered, good thing. Of course, the Raptors end up on the wrong side of history here. First of all, history being made on the Raptors side, which is that Pascal Siakam passes Alvin Williams all-time assists in Raptors history, which is, I don't know. I wasn't a very big Alvin Williams fan, so maybe that's just me kind of laughing that off. In terms of the Sixers, they make history. The first time 3 Sixers scored 30-plus points since the Sixers moved to Philadelphia. So that's wonderful. Tobias Harris had a very quiet 33. But it was very much within the flow. He puts up 33 points, 8 rebounds, 7 assists. Overpaid, not for one night. No, for one night he was good. Joel Embiid leaves the game in the third quarter, I believe late third quarter, doesn't come back until the middle of the fourth quarter. Game is out of reach. At that point, there was really no need for him to come back in. But of course, he's chasing his 30-10 streak, and it's going to be a big staple in his MVP resume. And Nick Nurse, being the most individualistic coach that I can think of, and a very player-friendly, chase your contract, chase your status, chase your awards type of coach. Obviously, he and Joel Embiid have a working understanding that Joel Embiid is going to catch Kareem for his 30-10 records. And all of this talk about Joel Embiid being Wilt Chamberlain, Kareem, Bill Russell, whatever. All right, man. Credit where credit is due. He's fine. He's a very good player, but leave it to Nick Nurse to kind of reverse engineer and game the system. I'll see it in the playoffs. If I ever see it in the playoffs, I'll believe it. I am not a Joel Embiid believer. I am not someone who believes that this guy is even holding a candle to guys like Kareem and Shaq and Wilt. Get the hell out of here. Not yet. And he certainly is not a better player than Nikola Jokic. Okay. So I'm just going to say that out there. But the Sixers are a better team than the Raptors, and they looked every bit of it tonight, even though they get out to a very slow start. This is a call-in show. If you'd like to call in, if you have something to say, by all means, call in. Sure, absolutely. I'd love to hear from you, see what you have to say. Let's take a look at some comments here. Sheesh, sounded very biased in that take. I don't like players who dive into other players and draw fouls. It's ridiculous. It's terrible for basketball. He's a very talented player. Yeah, he's a very talented player. But, okay, yes, your daily reminder to vote Scotty for the All-Star game. I missed my mark by an hour. I am now missing the mark by an hour almost every single day. So I am now getting very worried that at some point I'm going to miss a day. So, yeah, I got my alarm set tomorrow for 4 o'clock. I got to vote at 4 o'clock. You can vote every 24 hours. Again, a reminder to everyone out there, please stop voting for other front court players in the East that actually have a chance to beat Scotty out. That includes Jason Tatum, Giannis Antetokounmpo, Julius Randle, Joel Embiid, Pascal Siakam. Stop voting for these guys. Vote Scotty and then vote scrubs, okay? Vote don't vote Paolo, don't vote anybody who can even come close to it. Okay, be honest, like he's the one guy on this team that deserves to go. And even with all our best effort, maybe he won't make it in. Maybe he won't make it in. But I think that he should, and it'd be really nice to see him finish top 4, top 5 in voting. And then who knows? Canada's a big country. Vote McDaniel. Why don't you vote Grady and Coloco? Yeah, I do. So here's the thing. Yesterday we had a pair of lives. If you haven't watched it after this live, please go and watch it. I think they were fantastic lives. I'm very proud of them. I think they were very good discussions. The first one was about Darko Rajakovic and being a little bit more patient, and we'll certainly talk a little bit more about that today. I think there's been a lot of good stuff that's been done for the Raptors despite the record. The second live was with my boy Leo from Basketball Zone, and we were just talking about everything East, West, trades, etc. What might work. I think we came up with a pretty cool Atlanta trade that really works for the Raptors. It's a little bit long. Some people have been complaining about timestamps. Rob, have these longer videos, have some timestamps. I'm going to work on it. I mean, I keep saying I'm going to do it, but I'm going to put it on like my absolute must. It's annoying to go back and then listen to yourself and then have to do the timestamps. But you know what? If it's going to make it easier for you guys to navigate the videos, I should do it. And I should have been doing it all along. So I'll definitely do that. In terms of what I saw tonight, really from the Raptors, it was, it's just momentum, man. It's a lot of momentum issues this team has. Okay, I think we got Adventures with Smiles on. Hey,
hey, how are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
All right. I definitely am feeling that tonight. Definitely was a different energy out there. The reality check hit a lot of the players, and this is a good thing. And yeah, it's good to see Jakob. He's been really struggling this year. They actually made signs in place and set him up for him on offense to really work with the guys. But at the end of the day, it was a loss. But it was, some of Darko's subs and formations are a little off, but it was right. But
okay, yeah. I mean, I don't necessarily know if high usage Dennis and Jakob pick and roll. I mean, there was a period in the second quarter where we started seeing like the pace really crawling, where Dennis was sort of like putting it on the floor and like rolling it up and being really slow. And once in a while, it would result in a Jakob, dump off at the rim or a pocket pass, but eventually became so predictable. And then, the Sixers started shutting it down. And I would have personally liked to see the ball go more through Scotty and Pascal. And yeah, it just felt like over and over, this offense is generating open looks for Dennis Schroeder to drive, for Dennis Schroeder to take a shot. And he's not making those shots. He's not a threat, and it's such a difference when Scotty or Pascal initiate the offense versus when Dennis does, because of how much pressure they apply to the defense and how much more open the guy is on the first pass. And I'm just noticing that when Dennis is initiating the pass, nothing moves. The offense doesn't move. The defense doesn't move. It's just him moving around and surveying and looking, and everyone's just kind of standing still.
Yeah, we're getting too predictable, and Dennis is a second. He's a backup point guard, not a point guard at all, and it's not looking good. I was feeling that and like another one of Dennis's Schroeder's characteristics from like when he does the interviews and stuff like that, like some of his personal mechanics seem like very defensive, like orientated, like when he's just like laughing and stuff like that, like to these serious questions. And it's like, it's also, it's got a huge ego and a lot of arrogance on his side too, but also part of it is like,
I think it's defensive. I think
Yeah.
you're right. I think it's a lot of defensiveness. I think it's, chip on your shoulder, trying to prove that you belong in this league in which you are not one of the better players at all. I mean, yesterday, Leo and I were looking up his, offensive analytics, and he's 11th percentile in terms of finishing at the rim. And then Leo was shocked because he was like, I thought he was better than that. And then we went back last year and he was like 5th percentile. And then we went back the year before, he was 4th percentile. Like, he's terrible.
Yeah. Yeah.
And like, you're right, he's not a starting point guard. But if he could kind of stick to a fifth option type of role, as opposed to, on prime Chris Paul, Rajon Rondo type of, role where he's dominating possessions, like, this team would be better off for it, because he's certainly quick and he can get to the basket and he gets to the front of the rim. He doesn't score.
Yeah.
Because he can't make layups and his touch around the basket is not very good, and he's not very big, and he's not very strong, and he's not very creative, and he's not the greatest passer. But I mean, like, even in the last game, I was looking at some film and it was like there were such obvious pocket passes and open shooters that he just misses all the time. And so it's like when someone holds the ball as much as he does and they're not doing anything with it, it kills your offense every time. And I think on defense, he's giving up a lot. But what I'm most surprised by this year is how much Jakob is giving back, like, on defense. Like, Joel Embiid is beating him down the court with a bum ankle. He is beating him off the dribble. And I mean, like, he should be beating him off the dribble. He's a really good player. And he's obviously too good a player for Jakob Poeltl. But the question is, in back-to-back games, you're getting dominated by Joel Embiid and Nikola Jokic. They don't even look like they're breaking a sweat. And of course, these guys both score 30 points all the time, right? Like, that's just what they do. But it was interesting how much, I don't know if this is factually true, but I felt more comfortable with Precious Achiuwa on both the guys than I did with Jakob Poeltl. So, yeah.
It says a lot. Yeah, it says a lot.
I mean,
that we're in that situation.
It's just because of transition. Precious can switch, and he has a better chance of, recovering if he gets beat. He's got more foot speed. He also puts more pressure on the rim on the other side, where he can beat those guys down in transition, and he sort of forces some pressure on the defense to recover. He's a pretty good lob threat. I mean, they're both very flawed players, but as SP saying, quicker feet. Yeah, he has quicker feet.
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah. Any other thoughts?
I may just Merry Christmas, and I may leave the studio for this one, but I'm just listening. But I was going to ask you, how far do you think the Toronto Raptors and Masai Ujiri are setting us back by not making some changes? Are we on Detroit Pistons level? Like how long until we can be successful in the playoffs again? And just along those lines.
Okay, cool. I'll answer that when you come off. Okay, thanks, man. Yeah, so definitely not Detroit Pistons, but also there's no prospect on this team other than Scotty that has the upside of a Jalen Duren, Jaden Ivey, a Cade Cunningham, or even a Nazar Thompson. So, on the other hand, the Detroit Pistons don't have a single player as good as Pascal Siakam or OG Anunoby or Scotty Barnes. So, in a weird way, you're ahead of the curve, unless, of course, you let these two guys expire and then you don't sign them and they go somewhere else, in which case you might be behind the Pistons. So that's the tough part, right? Where you don't have an abundance of draft picks. You certainly don't have your draft pick this year, and you keep falling down these standings, right? The teams ahead of you are very vulnerable. Mitchell Robinson could be out for the whole year for the New York Knicks. They don't scare me at all. Okay. The Cleveland Cavaliers potentially could be dumping Donovan Mitchell in a trade, or, plus they're going to be missing Evan Mobley and Darius Garland for a while. They're vulnerable. The Nets don't scare me. Who scares me in the East? The Orlando Magic have been falling. They've lost 4 straight games. The Indiana Pacers are in a rut ever since teams started blitzing Tyrese Halliburton. This Sixers team does not scare me very much. The only thing that scares me is Dennis Schroeder being on the court for us. So I'm not even that scared of the Milwaukee Bucks and the Boston Celtics. The truth is that if you replace Dennis Schroeder with prime Kyle Lowry, this team's right there with those teams. That's the gap. The gap is your competent point guard versus incompetent point guard. And it's such a large gap because, see, the thing is that negative players, right? You can play a negative player on the court. Like, you totally can, right? Like the Lakers, the Shaq and Kobe Lakers, they often played like some negative players. Those were not very overly deep teams. They had guys like Samaki Walker. They played minutes. Okay. You can hide a negative player if you acknowledge they're a negative player, either offensively or defensively. Maybe offensively, they become a role player where their only job is to kind of set picks or whatever. There have been teams that have won games with players who are as bad as Dennis Schroeder in their rotation. That's no problem. Or even as bad as Precious Achiuwa in their rotation, no problem. The issue is these players don't know that they're bad. And those players did. Samaki Walker didn't come out and freeze out Kobe Bryant in the offense. I don't know why Samaki's catching strays in this live, but he hasn't played in a while. His son is playing for the Portland Trailblazers right now, Jabari Walker. But like, I'm just saying, like, role players got to accept their roles. And it seems like this team is just full of a lot of guys who don't accept their roles. Otto accepts his role 100%, right? Jakob accepts his role 100%. I don't think there's anybody else on this team that has fully embraced or accepted their role. Scotty is not a role player. He's a star. Pascal's not a role player. He's a star. But everybody else needs to fall in line. And Dennis Schroeder's not a star. It doesn't matter if you hit 2 shots. You don't become the star for a quarter, And this is the problem, right? Dennis started to go mano a mano with Tyrese Maxey. This entire game ended dead in its tracks. The minute I saw that, I stacked bets on the Sixers to win this game. The minute I saw him and Maxey chirping, I was like, oh, they're about to have a duel? Oh, shit. It's over for the Raptors. He has explicitly said he is not a one-on-one player, and he is exactly that. He is a one-on-one player. And all these egotistical guards have this one thing where anytime someone scores on them, their first thought is, let me go back at him. And they don't understand the context, the contextual difference. You are not Tyrese Maxey. Tyrese Maxey is one of the top 25 players in the league. You are not one of the top 100 players in the league. So if Tyrese Maxey scores on you, you need to have the Shane Battier attitude about it. Shane Battier is a great example of a man who accepted his role. Mike Miller, top 5 pick, accepted his role. Ray Allen, later in his career, accepted his role. Chris Bosh, later in his career, accepted his role. Yo, that's what this team is missing, if you want my honest opinion, is guys who accept their roles. These guys do not accept their roles. All right, we got AK and then we got Just Dope. AK, you got a dog barking, man?
Yeah, I apologize for my puppy.
No worries. You got a new puppy for Christmas?
Yeah. No. She's like 10 months old.
Oh, that's awesome, man.
Yeah, it's a Maltese, barks like crazy.
Yikes. Okay, what's up, man?
Not much. Just talking about this game. Sorry about that. Trying to go to a quiet location.
Bro, you sound like you're in a war zone with a puppy. You got a war zone with a puppy. Holy shit.
Okay,
all right.
Yeah, I just want to talk about OG for a bit.
Sure, what up?
I don't know. Overall, I thought his defense was okay. I don't understand why some people were calling out that his defense was bad. Like, he wasn't mainly I didn't see who his primary defender was this whole game. Like, he was in the start of the game, he was just guarding Kelly Oubre Jr. He wasn't guarding Tobias Harris or Maxey. Dennis was mainly guarding Maxey the whole game. And Scotty was mainly guarding Tobias the whole game. Like, I saw only small parts where OG was guarding Tobias at small moments, but most of them I saw OG was just helping off of whoever his defender was and trying to stop the penetration from Maxey because Dennis could not guard shit, or help Yak to defend double team Joel Embiid, and that was it for the whole game. That's what I saw. Like, did you see that or no?
It's really difficult to say, this guy was guarding this guy and therefore, like it's tough, right? Like, yeah, he guarded Kelly Oubre and Oubre guarded him or whatever. You could definitely say that, but the point of defense is to work on a string, which means, when a breakdown happens, are you close enough? Are you letting guys get backdoor? Are you letting them get inside position on you? Are you closing the gap in terms of, as a help defender? Are you rotating properly? Like all of these things, like this notion of, okay, well, he was guarding Kelly Oubre. Kelly Oubre had a bad game, and so OG did a great job. I think that might be incorrect way to look at it. I don't think he played terribly on defense. I just don't think he was the high impact defender that he's come to be known as, and it's been happening for quite some time now.
Okay, but like when I saw this game, he hardly had the ball in the game. Like there was not much passing, I would say, for the offense. Like I feel like Darko needs to set up more plays or get him going.
But how many guys can you get going? Like, I mean, I would say Scotty didn't have a ton of scoring opportunities this game.
Yes,
you can't get 5 guys with 30 points, right? So you're gonna have to pick and choose. And typically, it's best if you don't pick and choose before you go into the game. It's probably best that you pick and choose when you see how the defense is reacting, which means that if Pascal Siakam has to have 9 points or Scotty Barnes has to have 9 points because the defense is overplaying on them, then that's how you got to play it.
Yeah, like I do agree. Like I was praying for Dennis to get off the was in the fourth quarter. I really did not want him to play at all in the fourth quarter. Like he finally got benched when there was only 2 minutes left and it was already too late.
Was it 2 minutes left? I thought he was benched with more than 2 minutes left. Yeah. Any final thoughts, man?
Nothing. Did you see do you also agree Precious when he first started, the first 3 possessions he did was just really horrible. Just bricks after brick after brick.
Yeah, and he got a quick hook, and I think he deserved it. Yeah, but his second stint was a lot better than his first one.
Yes,
absolutely.
I agree. Thank you.
All right, thanks, man. Cheers. All right, next up we got Just Dope. Just Dope, what's going on, man?
Hey, not much, man. How you doing?
I'm good.
All right. So, first of all, good live last night. That was actually the late one you did. I was watching that or listening to that during work. That was really
appreciate
solid.
it.
So I've been trying, and this is probably more an influence of your channel more than anything else, just to pay more attention to essentially more modern schemes, advanced stats. And one thing that like I've been thinking of for a couple of days, so I went watch some video, was Jokic. To me, like if you just watch him in a bubble by himself, this is not a guy who's a great man-to-man defender. So I was curious, how is this guy leading the league in defensive box plus minus? Like, so watch some video, see some breakdowns, and basically it's them masking him. It's them using him for what he's good for. He's, last year he was number 1 in boxing out, right? So really it was just a matter of this team knows how to play team defense. They switch like crazy. They have several kinds of switches. And it just gets me thinking, like, there is no reason whatsoever the Raptors could not implement better team defense. Like, you watch them and you could just watch like 5 minutes of highlights, and essentially you're just watching guys not communicating except for Scotty, maybe 1 or 2 other guys. And it's frustrating, man, because like it does not take a whole hell of a lot to say, pick that man up. Like it's the sort of thing you expect maybe kids to struggle with. Like I got a brother who's been coaching youth ball and teenage ball and like rep ball for years. So like I see it all the time. But you don't want to see it at the pro level. And then you're just watching. It's like, holy shit, man. Like Yak trying to get back and Pascal is already down the court. Just pick up Embiid. There's a pass to him. It's easy finish. Like just pick him up. So I don't know. To me, it's not, the personnel doesn't fit. Like I really like that DeJounte trade. I think I made a comment on that video. I've wanted DeJounte here, since he was in college. Like I just think he's solid 2-way guy. But I don't know, man. Like personnel needs to be changed. but Jesus, like it would be better even if they just play together. It's frustrating to watch, man. Like
Yeah,
talk
it is. It is very individual to the point of Jokic, right? Like something that people don't understand. Well, two things. Number one, defensive analytics are far behind offensive analytics in terms of accuracy, in my opinion. So I think the eye test probably tells a more accurate, gives a more accurate read on Jokic. Also, estimated defensive plus minus has him as a negative defender, which I think is accurate. I don't think he's a positive defender. But I do think that he masks a lot, or Mike Malone and the Denver Nuggets mask a lot of his defensive issues, as you said, by sort of hiding him within the schemes. Also worth noting, defensive rebounding is a huge part of defense, closing out possessions. So when you're a dominant rebounder like an Andre Drummond or Hassan Whiteside, your IQ and your lateral mobility and your switchability isn't going to necessarily tank your defensive value because you're still adding this massively overwhelmingly positive thing, which is securing defensive possessions, which is important, because obviously like defense doesn't matter if you don't secure a rebound. So I think, with Jokic, there's the active hands stuff that he does. Sometimes he can sort of poke the ball away. He tries. And also it really helps on defense if you're just big. Being huge is just a huge effort. Yeah, I mean, he's long, he's huge. He's got a 7'5" wingspan, and he's absolutely an enormous human being. So in terms of, being a post defender, is he great? No, but he's decent. Just getting his hand up. So there's something that can be said for size, like with a guy like Jokic, who's a, bad defender, or even a guy like Luka, who's a bad defender. It's much easier to hide a big bad defender than it is to hide a small bad defender like Trae Young. Right. So, yeah, I mean, to your point about DeJounte Murray, yeah, I love him. Obviously, one of my favorite players.
I just like to see them go back to having just switch. Like, I kind of like, I know 2 years ago that team wasn't like, to me, they weren't elite, but it's more fun to watch guys just communicate and switch than see someone try and catch up and just like you give up the layup. Like,
right.
We don't have LeBron or Tayshaun Prince from back in the day just being able to catch up and block a shot from behind. So I don't know. That's just me. Like, I'm old enough to remember everyone playing one-on-one, and I liked it, but it doesn't work now. So,
I mean, yeah, it doesn't work, because other teams have a counter that's almost always more efficient. So it's always like you're always playing against somebody. So, like, for instance, like, we talk about like someone like Grady Dick being not very good, or not good enough to get regular minutes in the NBA. But it's like, that's a relative statement based on who he's playing up against on a night-to-night basis, right? So we all know the defense, rookies are going to struggle defensively, especially wing, rookies who are underclassmen, who are underdeveloped physically and have strength and athleticism issues are going to struggle massively defensively. But you take into account the talent level of the league, and then it's a relative equation. Right. So, yeah. So I just think like, like what the way the Raptors choose to play, I play, now you play, my turn, your turn basketball. It's a little bit like how the Atlanta Hawks play with Trae Young and DeJounte Murray. The difference is Trae Young and DeJounte Murray are far more efficient offensive talents than the Raptors variants of those same players. But this my turn, your turn shit, honestly, it barely worked 20 years ago when Antoine Walker and Paul Pierce were doing it, right? So it generally
Walker was good. He's got a lot of skill.
I mean, he was super skilled, and Paul Pierce was super skilled, but ultimately, that team just it was disjointed and it was predictable, and it's just like, this my turn, your turn stuff. I mean, I've seen it with Larry Hughes and Gilbert Arenas back in the day. That team, they were a little bit like that too. Team offense becomes harder to stop. It's less predictable. So, yeah.
It would be nice to have the Spurs beautiful game sort of stuff, but there's not.
I mean, look, the Raptors have put together a more beautiful offense. The problem is people aren't making shots. So the Raptors are number one in potential assists in the NBA right now, which is good. They just have guys who are poor finishers. Right? Like, If I'm creating an open dunk for Scotty Barnes, then I've done my job. If he misses the dunk, then he hasn't done his job. If I'm creating an open layup for my point guard, Dennis Schroeder, and he just misses the open layup because he can't make open layups. Well,
Can't believe
you know what I mean? Yeah, but that's my point. So the offense that you created, right? The offense you created is fantastic. People might have a hard time believing that, but it is. Like if you study it without the makes and misses, like say for instance, you just study the process of what the Raptors are doing relative to what other teams are doing, and you know how open they are on their shots. So like you take a look at every Gary Trent attempt, and then you cut off the tape right before it goes in or out. So you're not over influenced by that. You'd be like, these are all fantastic shots. They're almost all open. You know, they're almost all like, you know, in rhythm. They're almost all like efficient, you know, shot diet of threes and layups. It's just you're missing threes and you're missing layups, you know, and
do you think that's more, because you're right, like process in anything is more important than, because you can't, there is literally nothing in life that you can guarantee what the end result is. It's, you know, process. To me, process in anything, like it's everything. But then, like, is the personnel good enough for it? Like, if, you know, Schroeder, I was about to call him Schneider. If Schroeder is like bottom 11% and finishing at the rim, or if you create a lot of open threes and you only got like, you know, 2 guys in your starting lineup who hit at an above average clip. Like
yeah. I mean, look, it's like
it is, like, to be fair, yeah. Like Darko is, I'm critical.
It's critical. It's critical mass. Every single game is about critical mass. The Raptors cannot be this bad defensively and expect to win basketball games. It's that simple. So when you're this bad defensively, it puts so much pressure on your offense. It's an always double-edged sword where offense and defense are always one hand washes the other. The Raptors defense is what is creating so many issues for their offense, right? Because if you think about it, if your defense is better, your offense will be in transition more often, right? If your offense is better, your defense will be in transition less often. So the relation is always there between efficiency on offense and defense. Now, the problem with the Raptors is two-pronged. Problem number one is they often allow their offense to dictate their defense. So missing shots often result in really bad defense. Making shots, they suddenly play great defense. It's weird. The other side of it,
like if they track, I'm curious if they track that.
It is
shots
more
that result in baskets for another team. Because I feel like someone, like if you jack it and like you cause a long rebound, they leak out. Like,
well, think of it this way: like how often can you recall Pascal Siakam, specifically the 2 most flagrant guys on this are actually maybe 3. Pascal, OG, and Dennis are very out of control drivers, right? So very often when they miss a layup at the rim, they usually end up on their keister out of bounds, right? That's almost like a power play for the other team going the other way if it wasn't called a foul. And it almost always is never called a foul. So today, you know, you saw Dennis Schroeder miss a point blank layup, fall on his, you know, on his back, look like he's about to go to sleep, and then realize, oh shit, I have to play defense. And he sprung up, but he was behind the play. Now, the minute he's behind the play, the first advantage has already been created for Tyrese Maxey going the other way because he's probably going to get a paint touch. Now, the minute he gets a paint touch, it's going to result in a 3 or probably an open layup for somebody else. And people are going to forget that all of this was created with an out of control layup attempt by Dennis Schroeder on the other end 12 seconds ago. But that's how it starts. Bad offense leads to troubling defense. So that was really problem number one, is their offense, and, you know, they're complaining and they're falling and diving and ending up out of bounds and ending up, you know, just out of balance in general. There's just a lack of balance on this team. And then the other side of it is their defense being so bad has generally made their offense more half-court oriented. And it's two-pronged.
Would you, at this stage, even though like he's frustrating as hell to watch, just for the switching and the like, at least hustle and effort,
Would I start Precious Achiuwa?
Yeah, You knew that question was coming. Just for like, only because I mentioned switching before. Like he is, in theory, he should be the most switchable guy on this team if he had him right. Like he's the best athlete on the team. You just look at him physically and like he should be a hell of a lot better at basketball. Like he's an athlete essentially. Like so.
Yeah. And look, I
Yeah, I
mean,
don't know
he
how much we can get.
provides space. In theory, he provides space because he'll let him fly from above the break. He's not always camping on the paint, so it'll create more open lanes for drivers like OG. I think it'll open up it'll open up a world of space for OG, Pascal, and Scotty. I think the way that would work is you'd have to make a 2-for swap, where you'd have to swap both Dennis and Jakob for Precious
Yeah, I was
and
just thinking
Gary.
And
that would be great because that would create a transition offense, and Gary would create the openings in terms of lanes for passing, right? He would also provide an outlet in terms of a shooter that could be on the court with OG. And then you have weirdly enough, you go from a team with absolutely no spacing to a team weirdly with a lot of spacing. Alternatively, you could also use Otto as your 5 as opposed to Precious, because I think despite not being the quickest athlete, he is a better defender than Precious Achiuwa. And he's also a much better shooter than Precious Achiuwa.
And you don't need, like, on this team, except for, like, I don't mind them starting Yak against someone like Embiid or Jokic, just if you want to say you can't stop him, maybe we can slow him down at the rim, hypothetically. But if it's not working, it's not working. With that being said, if you got guys like Barnes who are just enormous he's listed like as shooting guard on like Basketball Reference. Like he's playing shooting guard, small forward, essentially.
Right.
He's your best help defender. So you don't need like a 7 foot. You can get by with a 6'8", 6'9". Like you really don't need a lot of size at center. Like at least 50% of the time.
It's funny because the narrative all last year was we need a 7-footer. We need a 7-footer. Like it's 1992. Yeah. Look, I think if Scotty moves to point, you get a lot of that size back, right? I mean, you're actually bigger across the board. If you swap Gary plus Precious for Dennis plus Jakob, you lose no size.
Like it's the reason I'm so gung ho always with DeJounte is like, this is you want a combo guard with him. You don't need the purest point guard. You need someone with ball handling to help get it down the court. You need another guy to like low. You don't need someone to dominate. Like,
and it really helps that DeJounte is shooting 30, 38, 37% from 3 this year. So I mean, it would be good. Plus, it helps that he can be a secondary creator. I think you need that.
Arms.
And he has super long arms. He's, in theory, defensively, he's good, even though he hasn't been the greatest defensively the last couple of years. I wonder how much of that has to do with playing next to Trae Young. And how much of it has to do with being older now. Guys are typically going to take a dip in terms of defense when they get a little bit older. But yeah, I mean, I like DeJounte and I like that trade overall. But yeah, I think it's difficult to justify at this point continuing to start this unit given how much they've struggled. But I wonder if today's hot start is going to be like, see, it works. It's the bench that's the problem. But weirdly enough, Dennis would help the bench, probably.
Yeah. It's his ideal role is 6-man. Like it's
right.
You want to dominate the ball, and
exactly, and he'll probably have a better chance of finishing possessions at the rim against backup units. He'll probably have a better opportunity to defend against backup units. It's just more suited to his skill set and current talent level to be a backup. But this is just that. It's a matter of ego. I mean, at this point, I realize the NBA is not necessarily this selfless, but I wonder if he really was a leader, would he not have just gone up to Darko already and just said, please bring me off the bench. It would be better for the team. I'm naive.
Like there's been better players than you have come off the bench. If Manu can do it, then
Manu. Oh my God. There's hundreds of players that are better than him that have come off the bench.
Yeah, guys who could have been starters. Like Manu, I only mentioned because you could be a Hall of Famer, but it was for the better of the team.
He is definitely a Hall of Famer.
I hope so.
Jamal, 100%. I would stake my life that Manu Ginobili is a Hall of Famer. I mean, there's no chance he doesn't make it. There's so many guys who come off the bench and have been better than Dennis Schroeder currently is. I think there's maybe 40 guys who come off the bench right now in the NBA that are better players than him. So
Yeah, I think Lou Will is probably better off the bench. It's been a little while. I can't remember the stats. But
I don't even think Lou Will is in the league right now.
he
But
did fine with his girlfriends and whatever. Like there's always in the games.
Chris Paul is a better player than him. Chris Paul comes off the bench. I mean, and the Warriors are trash. You know, Malik Monk comes off the bench.
Yeah.
He's a much better player than him, right?
I mean, I would take
there's
Mike
literally
Conley
one.
over him any day of the week, and he's 36 years old, and I would love him on this freaking team.
Sure, absolutely. Kyle Lowry did it last year. Nick laughed with a great point. You know, Kyle Lowry came off the bench last year, and he's better than him. Otto Porter currently comes off the bench for the Raptors. He's better than him. Gary Trent currently comes off the bench for the Raptors. He's better than him. There's a lot of players that are better than him. I think Chris Boucher is a better player than him. There's a lot of players that are better than him on this team. So it's like, it's really hard for me to understand how this guy, you know, anyways, it's a, I feel like I've exhausted myself.
One of these days we'll know why he's starting forever. One of these days.
Russell Westbrook
Probably in
comes
a
off the
year
bench.
we'll understand. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's a former MVP coming off the bench. He offered to come off the bench. I find that hilarious. I've often considered Russell Westbrook a little bit selfish, but look at that,
Yeah.
you know, for the betterment of the team, even he figured it out. I would try to do something different. Obviously, the Raptors play, I think, the Utah Jazz tomorrow. They'll probably collect a win. Maybe. Who knows? My God. If they lose to the Utah Jazz, I mean, this could be over. You've gone so far under at this point in terms of, you know, the 500 mark, right? Like the Raptors it's getting bad.
I just want like a 20-game losing streak to force the issue. Even though I'd like to see good team ball, like I don't know. It's come to the point where all like the one-liners of, you know, the wait and see, all the things like about Masai, like they're becoming like reality at this point. Like the process and patience and all that, it's becoming more of like a meme than it is.
I mean, the Raptors are now a full game behind the Chicago Bulls and a game and a half behind the Atlanta Hawks. They're 12th. They are 12th. I mean, let that reality sink in. There are 3 teams that are worse than the Raptors in the Eastern Conference: the Charlotte Hornets,
Sadly, I didn't
the
think
Washington
they'd be that
Wizards.
much better than that this year. I thought like 10th. That was like my.
I thought they'd be 6th, 5th.
Yeah,
I was expecting 6th or 5th. I mean, I thought worst case 8th, but like, you know, Derek K saying, sorry, Rob, next win is December 30th. Yo, bro, I actually have a feeling that they will. Okay, this is a hot take. I can't believe I'm saying this. But for weeks now, I have been predicting that the Detroit Pistons their losing streak, will end against the Toronto Raptors. I have this feeling.
Is Cunningham going to look like the man?
I'm just thinking, if there's one team that has been known to play down to their competition,
sure,
you know, and the Pistons have been playing better lately. Cade's been playing better. They're weirdly trending up. So
I mean, the role players aren't terrible. It's just, you know, the guy they entrust the ball with isn't as good as they seem to think he is.
Yeah, I you know, Cade said yesterday we're not 2-26 bad, right? And I'm just like, in a weird way, yes, you are, because that's your record, so you are. But I understand his point too. They're not that bad, and I see that team, and I'm like, man, if that team really, really, really comes out and punches hard, and Dennis Schroeder starts to get into a one-on-one battle with Jaden Ivey or something, like, yeah,
maybe that's where Cunningham goes off. He goes on Schroeder and just lights him up.
Yeah, and I mean, like, certainly Raptor fans have been blowing up Cade Cunningham on Twitter, saying Scotty's 100 times better than him, so maybe he'll be extra motivated coming into that. Plus, there's the Dwayne Casey effect, you know, still within the Pistons organization.
They have the playbook.
You know, I don't know if they have a playbook. I don't know if we have a playbook to begin with, but I'm just kidding. No, but I think, like, in a weird way, like, it's statistically very unlikely that the Pistons should ever win a game again. But they will, obviously. At some point, you know, the compounding effect of losses, you have to treat it like a game of odds where it's like joint probability. Yeah. What are the odds that they'll lose the next 4 games, right? Yeah, sure. But I think there's like
bet. Yeah, that's the Raptors a team to bet against if you're going to take that bet.
Yeah, I mean, I wonder if it would be like 6-1 type of odds. But if there was ever a game where I'm like, it's good, it could end right there. I mean, you expect this team to lose 50 straight? No, it's got to end somewhere. So the chances are it's going to end against the Toronto Raptors or the Detroit Pistons. Sorry, not they can't beat. I mean, if the Detroit Pistons could face themselves, it might end there.
They're their worst enemy.
I mean, San Antonio, Portland, Memphis, but Memphis now has John Morant, so they're not that bad anymore. So it's really the Utah Jazz are 11-18. You know, it's funny. The Raptors are 12th in the West. Sorry, in the East. The Jazz are 12th in the West. Tomorrow will be the battle of the 12ths. That's hilarious. And they're firmly 12th. And we are firmly 12th. And they are wait a second. We are 11-17. They are 11-18. That's hilarious.
What would you trade for marketing?
What would I trade for him?
Yeah, to me, if you're gonna like,
what wouldn't I trade for him?
Basically,
what wouldn't I trade for him? I mean, I would trade Siakam in a heartbeat.
Yeah, that to me, I think is a given. But would you do OG? That's
maybe.
Tougher. Yeah.
Maybe. I mean, he's. I mean.
7 foot and you can shoot. I mean, it's just like the things that we talk about constantly.
Size, skill, shooting, spacing.
Yeah.
But I mean, you know, OG gives you defense and he also gives you spacing. It's close. Oak Tree saying Olenek drops 30 on Poeltl. Yeah, I mean, you know, it's funny. Kelly Olenek would be a fantastic center for this team.
Yeah,
and
I was looking at the free agent list. He's on my list. Older.
Is he a free agent next year?
I think so. I'll have to double check. He's either a free agent or was just on the list of guys. And I was like, I'll just trade for him, like cheap and just like if you just want them to look better, play smarter. It's not long term.
Absolutely. I mean, it's just. I mean, if I had told you prior to this year that the Houston Rockets would be considerably better than the Raptors, I don't think you would have believed me. I don't think I would have believed
Fred
myself.
Was going to bounce back so hard. Like his usage has been under 20 for. I don't know if it still is, but it was.
Pretty much, yeah. I mean, the Raptors are 11-17, and the Rockets are 14-12. That's crazy. That's crazy. Which means that if the Rockets were in the East right now, they would be 7th. That's crazy.
And yet I hate them, which makes me sad because there was a time, you know, way back when I was young where I really liked the Rockets.
Hakeem days?
That was like Hakeem days, yeah. It's been so long when I think back.
You're dating yourself a bit there. Okay, gotcha.
Oh, no, I ain't that young. I don't pretend to be.
Yeah. I mean, I remember very vague. I was 7, 8 years old when I was watching Hakeem and the Rockets. And yeah, that team was really fun to watch. You weren't a Yao Ming fan? Tracy McGrady, Ron Artest, that team.
Oh, I love T-Mac, but him leaving Toronto, like I was still a fan, but that to me was because I saw it. I remember at the time thinking like, does no one see that at that moment in time? Like to me, he looked like the better player than Vince. And like me and my brother, we will watch the games. And we were just like, or at least like equal. He didn't look worse, and it just seemed like no one paid attention. I guess because maybe he'd been on the team a couple of years already, and like you forgot about him, but.
His skill work was a little bit further behind Vince's. Like I remember watching a game with Tracy McGrady in 2000. I think it was 2000 or 99. And he's like a wide open, almost like a wide open fast break. And he pulls up at the free throw line and he just barely grazes rim. And it's an open shot. And it just kind of took the air out of the building. And then you're just like, man, he's got some ways to go with that jumper. And in a lot of ways, Jack Armstrong has made a lot of comparisons between Tracy McGrady and Scotty Barnes. I certainly see it. I really do.
Really?
Athletically, they're very different, but in terms of size, skill, playmaking, Tracy McGrady's a very underrated playmaker.
Oh yeah, no, he was a great passer.
He was the difference between Tracy.
Game.
Yeah, no, it is, and I think that the real difference between Tracy and Scotty is just how vertical an athlete, like. How upright an athlete Scotty is and rigid and strong versus Tracy being like a very low, get low, dribble low, explode type of athlete. And it's like
Six
Scotty
foot 7, but he's playing like he's at 6 foot.
He
He's
was
just getting
easily
so
six.
low.
He was easily
He was up
6'9".
there.
He
Yeah,
was easily
he was a
6'9".
giant. But yeah, he dribbled so low. Like, holy shit.
Yeah, he
He
did.
was in a squat all game.
And also, like the defense. Like, I mean, like how many wings are there in the league that can register as many blocks as Tracy McGrady did? Well, Scotty Barnes. You know, like he's giving you that too. So it's interesting. The intangible ability to play point forward or even offhand a little bit of point guard. I think there are a lot of similarities. Just eye test is different. You know.
Yeah, it's
But
one guy's a human highlight reel, even just like warming up, but the other guy, like, I mean, Scotty makes highlights. It's in a different sort of.
exactly. Yeah, it's less eye grabbing, but it's different. You know, it's like Jordan versus LeBron. You know what I mean? Like Jordan was aerial, LeBron's force. You know what I mean? Like so, there's a little bit of that. But anyways, any final thoughts, man?
No, just what would you like? Just curious, what trade that's actually doable would you think of making for this team, big or small? Because like for all the massive rumors we get, I don't have a whole lot of faith that they're gonna go and like do anything big. And if they did, it would probably be the exact opposite of what I want them to be like. So what's something like reasonable, smaller that you think they could do that would actually be an improvement? Which I know is a tough question because there's so many role
I
players in the
mean,
league.
like
It's like
so
too many.
let me get this straight. Your definition of big is trading Siakam or OG.
Siakam or OG or both. Yeah, I don't. As much as I'd like to see it, like I honestly don't think it's even going to happen at this point. Even though like they're both free agents, but I mean it just seems like they're holding out for the perfect offer, and the perfect offer doesn't exist. Like I don't know where that's. It's not like every other GM in the league is stupid. They all have been around too. So I don't know if you're trying to fleece them, which it always feels like Messiah is. Like I don't see it happen. But I mean, the free agents just clear a space and sign them.
I mean, I guess I wonder what Thaddeus Young and Chris Boucher could get you if that was out there for somebody. If there was maybe I don't know, like a longer term contract, maybe attached to a serviceable player that maybe another team wanted to just move off of, and they just wanted the expirings, right? You could convince me on that. Like Thaddeus Young's a $8 million expiring deal. He's a no nonsense, veteran who can put into your locker room. He's not necessarily washed per se. He's not Udonis Haslem level bad. He could still technically play, some minutes for you. He's professional. He keeps himself in shape. Potentially Otto as well. I mean, you're not contending anytime soon. The guy's 30 years old. He's clearly got some value around the league, and you've shown thus far this year that he's just healthy enough. So I wonder if you could package some of those players that are maybe on the older side or crossing 30, including guys like Dennis and Jakob potentially, and just maybe get a late first in exchange for your trouble. So take on a few more years, get a late first. Those would be some very, very small trades, kind of like housekeeping trades that I would look at.
Those late first, the late first there, I mean, that's what this team was kind of built on, like to a degree. Like a lot of it, like Siakam's some later than that. So yeah, like it seems like they've undervalued the later picks of late. And it's like, man, there's so many guys that like every year, even in a shit draft, someone will be there later. If you like,
Yeah, and also I think with later first round picks, you might be a little bit more open to taking a older rookie, right? Like a Brandon Pajinski goes 19th, Jaime Jaquez I think went 16th. These guys are both older rookies, right? Trace Jackson Davis goes 57th. So, I mean, all of those are rotation players in the league right now, and you don't have enough rotation players, right? Which is crazy to say because given you're coming into the season, you probably thought you did. You probably thought Jalen McDaniels was going to be a rotation player and Grady Dick was going to be a rotation player, and it just hasn't worked out. So that's also the other problem, which is like coming into the season, you thought you can go 10 deep, no problem. Problem is, Boucher is hit or miss. Night to night, you don't know what you're going to get. You might get the 6 worst minutes. You might get 5 great minutes. You don't know. Precious Achiuwa, same issue. You don't exactly know what you're going to get from him. Otto, you do know what you're going to get from him.
Low maintenance. Just
Jalen McDaniels has been terrible. Gary Trent has been underwhelming for the most part. I think he's turning it around, though. The last few games, he's been pretty good. So hopefully this is a trend that can continue. Malachi has been a below average, backup point guard. Some nights it's been average. Some nights it's been very, very below average.
How long
and Grady has been terrible.
How long is Malachi under contract for still? He seems
He's
like
expiring.
something you throw in a trade.
He's expiring.
He seems like something you throw in just if you need like another $1 million or $2 million trade at this point. It's like,
right. And I mean,
he's
like,
improved, but like the ceiling is so low. Like
he's almost 26 years old.
Yeah.
But people need to realize that he's almost 26 years old.
In point guard is like, I'm sorry, a 6 foot or just 6 foot to 6'2". There's a lot of people that size in the world, quite frankly. So it's not hard to find.
I agree. I think
point
like
guards everywhere.
undersized guards who don't finish overly well at the rim, who aren't specialist shooters or defenders. Like, he's a very generalist type of player. He does a little bit of everything. He doesn't do anything overly well, which is why I wonder if he'll have a contract in the NBA next year. That's not a 2-way contract. So it's tough, I mean, at the age of 26, is he really any better than a lot of guys who are outside the league right now looking in, like Jeff Doughton? I don't think so. So that to me is like the tough part of this. So what I'm saying is you have an abundance of theoretical depths, guys that you want to think are players who have been players. Garrett Temple got minutes last year for the Pelicans, Not a lot of minutes, but he was occasionally in their rotation playing some minutes for them last year and the year before. I look at Thaddeus Young. Thaddeus Young occasionally started. Yeah, I mean, he's a smart player. Thaddeus Young occasionally started for you last year. When Pascal Siakam went out, you saw minutes where Thaddeus Young was starting. That is less than
first round pick traded.
Sure. Yeah. So I mean, it's not like this team has, like, here's how I would say it. This team has 3 players who are like, okay, like, are you familiar with NBA 2K?
Yeah, I literally just had a PS5 and like returned it because I was like, I'm gonna waste my every weekend playing that. But yeah, I literally.
You just returned it?
It was like the Boxing Day, like just I'll buy it. I haven't played video games in years, and I bought a PS5, and I was like, no, I can't keep this.
Boxing Day hasn't even happened yet.
No, I'll start at Boxing Day, whatever, Black Friday.
Okay.
I used to work retail. I should remember these free.
Yeah, I mean, my girlfriend just got me one for Christmas, so that was really nice.
That's a really nice gift.
Yeah.
My girl didn't buy me one. Shit.
I haven't opened it yet, and I'm kind of thinking to myself, like, I barely play my PS4. What do I need a PS5 for? But I mean, I kind of just want to future-proof myself because the PS6 is not coming out until at least 2028. So I'm like, at some point, I'm going to hit a summer for like 2 months, I'm going to want to play NBA 2K24 or something like that, and I just want a system for it. So I don't know. At this point. We'll see. But it's cool that you returned it. Sorry, what was the question prior to this?
It was right.
So,
like 2K,
so yeah,
right?
so this is 2K ratings. So I would look at the Raptors like they have 3 guys that are above 80. Obviously, we all know who those 3 guys are.
Yeah.
They have like 2 guys who are like 75-ish. In Gary and Jakob. And then like everyone else is like 70 or below, or like 72 to 65. And it's like, that's like a very flat team. And there's no like real separation. Like, I don't know how to separate between, like, for the Sixers, I can separate between, Kelly Oubre and the guy behind him. Right. I don't have that separation here. I can't separate between Grady and Jalen McDaniels other than I like one guy more and one guy's younger. There's no real separation in terms of the production value between those guys, Thaddeus Young and Garrett Temple and, all of these guys are giving you like the same value, which is basically no value. So you're just wasting a lot of roster spots, to the
Yeah.
point where there's some legitimate arguments whether there are two guys on your G League roster right now in
Porter?
Jonte Porter and Javon Freeman Liberty who could potentially crack your rotation. That's how bad it is, because those guys are like 65s, right? So if you think of them as 65 to 67s, and then everyone else is 67 to 72, then it makes sense that someone who's 67 could crack a rotation, or where guys are like Malachi Flynn's got to be like a 70 max, a 68, 67. Like I hate to talk in terms of 2K ratings, but it's the easiest way to quantify this. Like,
I mean, he's got a decent 3-point shot, but he's not like,
you know what I mean? So it's like all of these guys are like league minimum guys. Like if Thaddeus Young, like, okay, here's a theoretical. Let's
if
just
they were all making league minimum, that would help. If everyone was just dirt cheap, to be honest. Like,
okay, so let's play a hypothetical.
Porter had a good game today too, like a really good game.
Jonte Porter.
Yeah, I think he shot like 4. He shot like lights out. Had 9.
Yeah,
like
absolutely, absolutely. He was great. Okay, so let's play a hypothetical game. Let's say the Raptors waive tomorrow. Let me just pull up their roster for a second. One sec. I'll just pull it up. And right after we talk to you, we'll go to the post game. But I'm just kind of curious what the fair market value would be for all these players according to you. So you're a general manager, and the Raptors have waived every player on their team that is not OG, Pascal, and Scotty. And I just want to know, you have carte blanche. You can sign them to whatever amount of money you want. I'm just curious how much you would sign them to. Hold on one second.
Like, I'm going to be like so brutal at this because I don't pay attention to the cost of lower guys. Also, I'm always of the opinion, like, those spots, you fill all that out. That's where your late first round picks, your second, like, I'm not really, unless you're like trying to dump guys like you said earlier and just consolidate maybe. Because I'm always of the opinion, like, you spend top heavy, and like you get your stars that way. Not necessarily you gotta get everyone at max, but yeah, I'm not a fan of like, let's give $20 million to this guy who's gonna play, like Yak should be playing like 20 minutes a game. Let's give $15 million to this point guard who's not right, or whatever the hell they're paying Schroeder. Like, and honestly, like most of them, I would give them like friggin' $5 million or less and tell them to piss off.
Right.
Or a lot less than that, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of Pascal Siakam, obviously, like, we're not talking about the starters. We're not waiving the starters. Obviously, like, some of these guys would get a ton of money. But I'm curious about the other guys. Like, I mean, yesterday or the day before, we went through this entire thing where we went team by team and we asked, would Jakob Poeltl start on this team?
Yeah, I saw
and it was sobering. It was a sobering reality to realize that there were like 2 or 3 teams that he would maybe start on, and then most other teams he would not start on because they were either
maybe,
set.
Even those aren't necessarily definite.
They're not. Like, Daniel Gafford is not definite at all. Nick Claxton, like, he probably doesn't start against those teams. So
Claxton's my 2K trade for Pascal usually.
And it works. Yeah. Okay.
It's like him and Simmons, but anyway.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm gonna just sort this by value of a replacement. Where is it? Yeah. So yeah, it's basically Scotty and not much else. But okay. So amazingly, Precious Achiuwa is climbing. So if you could sign Precious Achiuwa to like a contract, would he be a mid-level exception guy? Or do you want me to just respect the fact that you said you're not good at this and we just move on?
No. Like, the thing with Precious is like, like we're seeing right now, like a little bit of him playing well, and then you get back to the stupid mistakes. Like,
right.
If you just sit and watch him, like I was at the first Hawks game, and there's like some guys I just put my eyes on, like DeJounte, Precious, whoever. Like, you watch him, he does things that you don't expect a professional basketball player to do.
I mean, he's turned a corner here. I mean, as a defender, he's got positive defensive box plus minus, which is great. He's technically, in terms of box plus minus, he's technically 4th on your team, which is crazy, but true. He is behind only Scotty, Jakob, and Siakam. That's it. At negative 0.2.
Good for him.
Please.
Terrible for everybody else.
I know.
It's
I mean,
inexcusable for the rest.
it's the same thing with value replacement. He's fourth on your team in VORP. That's crazy. I mean, this is a huge jump up for him. If I showed you his stats from last year, he's not this player last year. Actually, I'm just kind of curious actually to look at his stats.
Did it just bump up a lot in like the last few games? Because
yes, it has been the last few games
just before the last stretch.
We can certainly look at it. In terms of his advanced and per 100 numbers, so the scoring is equivalent, field goal percentage equivalent, but 3-point percentage has jumped up to 31% this year, which is decent-ish. I mean, the year before he was 36%, so he's knocked over 31% now 2 years in a row. Free throw attempts not great. Rebounding, he's at a career high. 15.8 per 100 possessions. So he's rebounding like a monster. His assists have more than doubled over last year. So he's playmaking more. His steals are up massively. Turnovers are up a little bit as well. So, I mean, overall, I mean, this is solid. He's been solid.
Rookie block percentage, how is it so high?
Yeah.
How many minutes was he playing as a rookie? It's like 4%, 2%.
Yeah, I mean, typically rookies tend to have very high block percentages. You should check Pascal's block percentage as a rookie. But I mean, and in terms of, you know, box plus minus, like he's gotten better every single year. So this is validation, man. Like this is actual, like this is reality. He's done it. Like he is actually showing you that he is a guy. And Malachi's, you know, trend line is very similar to this as well. This is the first year of his career that he's had a positive value for replacement. This is massive.
Celebrate? Because we don't have a lot of things to celebrate.
I mean, look, if the stated goal of this year was improvement of your youth, then apart from Grady Dick, you're hitting all for all right now because Scotty's massively improved. Malachi has massively improved. And now look at Precious Achiuwa. He's massively improved. Like this is his highest PER. I mean, granted, like his true shooting percentage is not great. It's 5% below league average. But you take that one equation, if he continues shooting better and better, and he has been, and the trend line has been reversed. So, like, I mean, if I look at his advanced box score, I guarantee you, like over the last 10 games, has been a lot better than his first 10 games.
I wonder how high he finishes at the rim, because like.
Yeah, I mean, look at how bad it was.
Creating for himself, like he should be, you know, the guy cutting and just catching on the move. Really, like he's not. It's not like he's got crazy handles. You know, that's not really his job. So.
Totally. Like the first 3 games, look how bad he was. Negative 9.1, negative 4.8, negative 6.8. So he started out the season horribly. Then he had this entire, you know, stretch of terrible play, including a negative 23.9 box plus minus game against Brooklyn and a negative 11.2 box plus minus game. But then something happened starting against Miami, where he's been overwhelmingly positive, with the exception of one game against New York. Look at that. 9.3 box plus minus, 2.7 box plus minus, 0.2, 6.3, 4.7. This is how you turn around a season. If you look at box plus minus
against his old team.
I mean, maybe, but like, holy shit, this is a real turnaround here, to the point where I could argue in most of these games, he's been your second or third best player. That's crazy. That's absolutely insane. He's massively outperforming OG right now, so I can certainly understand why certain people want to start him, including yourself. Like you kind of mentioned it. So yeah, so now I'm starting to think maybe he's a mid-level exception guy. But other than him, on this team, I'm not seeing a lot of guys who would command above the league minimum right now. Marquise Noel would be a 2-way if he gets a 2-way. Ron Harper Jr. has been waived. Thaddeus Young would be a minimum guy. Garrett Temple, minimum guy. Otto, probably 3 to 5 million. Probably. I mean, I think he's fantastic, but the age and the injury history, etc. Jalen McDaniels, minimum guy. Chris Boucher, probably 4 or 5 million. Right?
Yeah.
Gary Trent Jr., probably mid-level exception guy. Precious Achiuwa, probably mid-level exception guy. Malachi Flynn, probably minimum.
Younger than Malachi. Like people commenting, he's like 2 years younger than Malachi.
Yeah. I mean, that's the crazy part. But like, I mean, I look at a guy like Malachi, and I'm like, that's a league minimum guy. But I mean, also look at him. Like, I mean, you know, it's not like it's been overwhelmingly positive. He's negative 2.6. Has he gotten better over last year? Yeah, sure. It was hard to get worse. But he's basically exactly in terms of lots of times, he's back to where he was as a rookie, identical to where he was as a rookie. Not exactly what you consider progress when you consider it. His numbers are almost identical to rookie standard, but this is the first time in his career that he shot above 50% true shooting. So,
now, what's his value to other GMs in the league?
His value is probably league minimum. As I said, these you know, a 25-year-old turning 26 with a negative 2.6 box plus minus with no discernible specialist skill and not a lot of size is barely a league. Like, he's barely a player. He's barely an NBA player. So really, when you're looking at like assets that are popping for you right now, it's really Scotty and I mean, Precious, you know, and hopefully Grady if it works out for Grady at some point. But yeah, anyways, this has been an interesting conversation for sure. Thanks a lot for calling in. Any final thoughts, man?
Thanks, man? No, man, just I'm hoping the losing continues. You know, even though they ain't got a pick, I'm just like, I don't want to see them. I expect them to finish the year with the same lineup, but I prefer to see something change. But yeah, that's just me. I'm like team negative.
Team negative? No, I think
it seems like I am, to be honest, or I'm just team change something for God's sakes. But
I think it's team positive, to be honest. It's positive to be negative sometimes. Yeah. Anyways, take care, Just Out.
Cheers, man.
Cheers. Okay, let's go to the post-game analysis and comments. Well, technically, this is post-game analysis. Let us go to the post-game interviews.
Result that you wanted, but one thing that has definitely stood out this game that has been a focal point for lots of media members has been, of course, the starts of games, and this was a really good start. But what happened? What was the fault, like the drop-off and closing it out?
I thought that we started the game really, really well. Like all the conversations we had, all the work that we put in, preparation, scouting, our guys were to the point to start the game, and it was really good execution. We kept Embiid to only 2 points in the first quarter, and they were not getting anything easy. And when we had those opportunities, rebounding was better. Our opportunities to run in transition, we just did a really good job there. But it is a long 48-minute game, and that's for us now how do we sustain it, how second unit guys when they come on the court, how they keep helping us and moving us forward. We need all the guys that touch the floor to play good basketball and on a good level for us to be competitive against this level of teams. But I found this game a lot of positive stuff that we gotta learn from and implement it as soon as tomorrow night.
Well, you did mention about changing the rotations, and we saw some different lineups on the floor. Some other players obviously didn't make the floor, as in Chris. What did you see from the rotations that you adjusted to tonight that you liked and want to maybe do more tweaking with?
For deeper analysis, I'll have to watch the film for sure. I just felt over there that Otto was giving us some spacing. He got a couple of wide open looks. That was good for us. We tried some lineups with traditional point guard, without traditional point guard out there, like having Scotty to handle the ball to see how that looks like. We're just trying to do a lot of good stuff, but at the same time, we're trying to develop the good habits and positive habits and how we continue to build our team with individual habits and also team habits.
Second quarter, they came at you. What changed in terms of what they were doing or what you guys couldn't do in terms of the second quarter when they kind of made the run at you and took control?
Yeah, a couple of possessions we missed shots, couple of possessions we turned the ball over and allowed them to get our in transition and to score. That was the main thing over there in that second quarter. And also I thought that our execution was still good, but just like those couple of empty possessions that we had sparked their comeback in the game.
Seen them make a little bit of a run third quarter as well, and then they kind of pick it up again. Kind of hard to maintain it. Is it hard when you can't maintain that pace and try and get back out at you?
That's the league. It's the league of runs. Both teams they had runs tonight. At the end of the game, Embiid and Maxey made some really tough shots, heavily contested shots. That's what those type of players do. And we ended up having 30 assists while shooting 27% from the field. And if we made a couple of more threes, it would be a different kind of game.
You've been picking up some wins of late. You're seeing some consistency with this team now that you're trying to see some things that made win during the start of the year. Are you seeing those things now with this team?
To some degree, but there is so much work ahead of us to continue figuring things out and keep getting better. But the first thing that has to be is like sense of urgency, sense of intensity that we had, and sense of respect that we had for the game tonight that was on a high level from the jump. And that's something that we need to learn how to implement and have it for 48 minutes.
You mentioned that you're going to talk to Jakob Poeltl, have a conversation. He told me a little bit about it this morning. What did you like that from what you saw today that maybe translated from that conversation to the floor?
I wish that just like conversation can change things just like that. But like Yak is a really good player and he really helps us when he's able to play in that pocket pass, in pick and roll and play make from there. Like he really makes us better. Is that he's shooting to the rim where he's very efficient. Is that connecting with his teammates. He did a really good job. But I was also like, he took on a challenge to guard one of the best players in the world in Embiid, and he did a really good job executing game plan, being physical, not fouling too much. Like he did a pretty good job, and we need to build on this. We need more.
There are no players who were interviewed today, apparently. That's tough. Would have loved to hear more of we just need to keep talking about it. We need to keep talking about it. Like, man, I realized that scapegoating one player in a team game is difficult. It's not. I just want to talk about momentum for a second, right? He talked about empty possessions, right? Where you have one guy who kind of goes outside of himself. Now, every team occasionally has one guy who takes a bad shot, but the whole team doesn't lose their mind when that happens. We do. One guy. And this team has I've learned a lot from watching the Detroit Pistons lately, right? Really a lot. In terms of just watching their collapse last night against the Utah Jazz, something happens when your team is full of guys who have losing habits, which is that when the lead starts to shift, everyone goes individual. They lose principles, they lose perspective, they lose the game plan, they stop playing defense, and everyone just starts thinking like, okay, I gotta get us back. We talked about a culture of selfishness that started last year with Fred VanVleet. And regardless of how well Fred VanVleet is doing with the Houston Rockets, I refuse to believe that it is Fred VanVleet alone who has turned around that program. It is Ime Udoka, who is a massive upgrade over Steven Silas. It is the growth of the young players. It is Alperen Şengün for sure. Fred VanVleet is certainly doing a good job, but he is replacing Kevin Porter Jr. Can we be real about that? So he's going to get better. If next year we were to replace Dennis Schroeder with Tyus Jones would be considered like an all-star level, type of guy based on the upside. Dylan Brooks is also a hell of a defender who is suddenly shooting decently and has a chip on his shoulder. And it's early in the season. It's not the first team in the league. In Washington Wizards were good last year. At this point last year, right? So I'll be curious to see if it continues. Certainly wouldn't be surprised if the Rockets end up being a 40-win team. But they went out and they spent a lot of money and they changed their coaching staff and they have a whole bunch of young guys who've gotten a little bit better this year. So it's the same thing with Nick Nurse. And look, man, he's on a team with arguably the best player in the conference. As much as that pains me to say, Joel Embiid is probably the best player in the East right now. Are they really overperforming? Are they so great? This notion of we got Nurse wasn't a problem and Fred wasn't a problem. I mean, in a lot of ways, what you're seeing right now is the remnants of a culture that they helped to establish, which is a culture of, individualism. I'm trying to avoid using the word selfishness. It is just hyper individualism. And a lot of those players that were there last year are still here right now. So maybe really what you need to do is you need to clear the slate. You need to get some guys out and get some new guys in who haven't been infected by this culture of when things get bad, I got to go do it by myself. Now, I am personally positively surprised by two players, and I'll just flash my screen here for a second and just kind of show you what I mean. Number one, Pascal Siakam. So Siakam had a big game tonight, and weirdly enough, I want to show you something that's a little bit surprising, and probably a little bit surprising for people. Hang on. Get down to this. He is having his most efficient year in terms of true shooting percentage in the last 5 years, which includes, by the way, 2 All-Star years. Okay? That's while shooting absolutely dog shit from 3 and shooting kind of terribly from the line. That's how efficient he's been from 2 this year. And you saw a little bit of that tonight as well. In terms of 2-point percentage, this is the highest mark of Siakam's life since he's been moved to a primary option. The last time he was this efficient was 2018, 2019 with Kawhi Leonard, where he shot 60% on twos. Right now he's shooting 58% on twos. I believe after tonight it'll go up some more. Free throw shooting percentage has been the lowest it's been in 6 years. Okay. 3-point shooting percentage is the lowest it's been in 6 years. So that's really a testament to the fact that, I mean, this guy could be, if he's just shooting a little bit better from the line and a little bit better from 3, he could be having a 60% true shooting year. I just want to put that into context. Pascal Siakam's been better on offense than he's been in a while. Now, in terms of everyone talking about, oh my God, the scoring efficiency dip. I mean, per 100 possessions, he's almost exactly on par with 21-22, which was Scotty's rookie year. Almost on par, 29.7 versus 30.1. It's almost identical, guys. So really what you're really complaining about right now with Siakam, to be honest, is he's playing fewer minutes, which isn't a bad thing. It's not a bad thing. So in the midst of what was effectively a disastrous season, he's actually not having the worst season ever. Is it a max player season? Hell no. 0.7 value of replacement and 1 box plus minus is not a max, player season at all. He's also having one of his worst defensive seasons. So really, Siakam is struggling in a few areas. Number one is 3-point shooting, free throw shooting, of course, that efficiency from those 2 areas. Number 2 is defense, rebounding, etc. But in terms of everything else, he hasn't been overly turnover prone. His usage has been trending up, at least from the first 7 games. We've seen it go up back to about 25%. That's almost in line with where he was in Scotty's rookie season. Really, the difference here is impact, the type of impact he's having while he's on the court, and the minutes he's playing, right? He was an all-star with a 17.9 PER. He's at 17.8 right now. Not that I really rate the stat PER, but the regression is not as extreme as it was earlier in the season, where he was like at 14 PER and he was at negative box plus minus and he was at like 0 value for replacement. He's trending up. Pascal Siakam is having a better December than he was in November. Worth noting. Precious Achiuwa has also turned a corner. Malachi Flynn has also turned a bit of a corner. Scotty Barnes has turned a major corner. These guys have played better. Okay. The offense overall under Darko Rajakovic has been better than under Nick Nurse. The difference here right now, the spacing, how defenses are reacting, the conference that you're in and the depth of that conference and the parity around the league and how many bottom feeders there are really to beat up on. There's really 3 or 4. There used to be 7 or 8. That matters. The Raptors went 4-0 against the Charlotte Hornets last year. I really want you to pay attention to who the hell they beat last year and who they got beat by. Okay? They weren't really super competitive against really good teams. They were competitive against really bad teams. And they spam pick and roll with an overwhelming amount of talent against those teams that were hapless. The previous year, There were all the COVID restrictions when Fred VanVleet made the All-Star team. You're talking about teams that have won 40-plus games 2 straight years in very specific circumstances that just don't exist for this year, okay? SP saying, can we call Dennis and Jakob duo oil and water? I mean, sure. But the question here is, when you run pick and roll with Jakob and, I don't know. See, Jakob has also been super efficient. Like, if I want to take a look at Jakob Poeltl, just to give you an idea of just how much more efficient this offense has been than last year's offense, just take a look at this for a second. I'm going to pull up Jakob's numbers in terms of just his career averages. It feels bad because you're losing a lot, but just look at his numbers year over year. Look at his true shooting. His field goal percentage. Let me look at his true shooting for a second here. 70.7%. And it's up today. It'll probably be 71% after today. Not only is that number 1 in the NBA, that's his highest mark ever. It is a 8% improvement over San Antonio. And it is a 5% improvement over him, 6% improvement over him as a Raptor last year. 6% improvement on true shooting percentage is massive. He's been more impressive, like in terms of an offensive player. So what's really tanking your offense? Well, let's take a look. Let's take a look at what's really tanking the offense. Okay. Let me show you. Exclude Ron Harper Jr. and Marquise Noel for a second. You can also exclude Garrett Temple, I guess, although he's managed a 0.1 value of a replacement despite only playing 19 minutes, which is freaking historical because he's shooting 93.5% true shooting in the garbage time minutes that he's played. I swear, no player in league history has made more, I think, of the 19 minutes Garrett Temple has played this year than Garrett Temple. Okay. That's your problem. If you want like a clear perspective, OG Anunoby being an 11.9 PER guy, his defense has not been great. I mean, OG Anunoby has a negative defensive box plus minus. Let that sink into your head for a second. I don't think defensive box plus minus is telling the whole story, but he was overwhelmingly positive for most of the season. There are a lot of stats out there that would show you that OG Anunoby is not a top 50 player in the NBA right now. And he definitely should be, especially if he wants $40 million. He should be. Okay? Your problems are across the board. Pascal Siakam has overall taken a step back, but we are quick to say Dennis Schroeder and Jakob Poeltl. I'm certainly quick to say Dennis Schroeder. Take a look at Dennis Schroeder last year versus this year. Just take a look. Hang on. Show you what I mean. Last year, he was negative 2.9 box plus minus. This year, he's negative 1.4. That's an improvement. Last year, he was negative 0.4 value of a replacement. This year, he's positive 0.1. Weirdly enough, that's an improvement. Last year, he had a 54.5% true shooting. This year, he's pretty much static at 54% true shooting. This is who he is. He's getting to the line a little bit less. Okay. His usage, I mean, it's a little bit higher, sure. But in terms of per 100 possessions, you want to look at his last 2 seasons. Tell me which one's better. He's getting 3 more assists, 0.5 more steals, same amount of turnovers. So his usage and his assists are going up and his turnovers have stayed the same. He's scoring 3 more points. He's shooting better from the field. He's shooting better from 3. I mean, he's having a much better season than he had last year, right? So the question really is the offense the problem right now? Everyone said the offense was going to be the problem. Everyone said they couldn't shoot. The offense is the problem, blah, 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 blah. That's not been the problem. The offense is not the problem right now. It's the defense that's the problem. Your defense has fallen off a cliff. Okay? This team, had it just come out and been a top 10 defense, which I think by most generous, most conservative estimates would have been the floor for this team. Top 10 defense should be the floor. Top 2 defense should be the ceiling. I don't think they're going to be better than Boston necessarily. But like, okay, I think this team has the personnel to be a top 10 defense at minimum, and they haven't been. And had they been a top 10 defense, they might be 3 to 4 games over 500 as opposed to 6 games under 500. This is a huge swing, and it's all starting with your defense. It's also starting with the stagnation of your offense. Sure, it's starting with guys having abnormally cold shooting streaks. We've talked about a lot of guys who've gotten better. What about guys who've gotten worse? Well, when it comes to guys who've gotten worse, look no further than Gary Trent Jr., who might be turning a bit of a corner here, but look at his numbers last year to this year. It is insanity, the difference in his output. Per 100 possessions, he has a drop of 6 points. In terms of efficiency, 2-point percentage was never great for Gary Trent Jr. in terms of field goal percentage. He's 4% lower. In terms of 3-point percentage, he's 2% lower. In terms of free throw percentage, he's 21% lower. You're losing games by 3-4 points. These points matter. And he's been a massive drop. In terms of box plus minus, he's gone from a positive 0.2 to a negative 3.9. That's a massive fall off. And no matter what I say about, Pascal falling off a little bit, Pascal and Gary falling off this much is almost negating anything that Scotty's done in terms of improving. So you look at guys like OG, there's a slight drop off. You look at Gary and Pascal, there's a big drop off. So even in places where these guys are thriving and getting a little bit better, right? You can say they're a little bit better. So it's difficult to isolate any individual and say, okay, this guy's the problem, that guy's the problem. It's a collective problem. Jalen McDaniels is supposed to be at least a serviceable rotation guy. He hasn't been. He's been the worst player in the NBA, or one of the worst players in the NBA. He's easily been one of the 10 worst players in the NBA, which is a lot to say considering there's tons of rookies in the NBA right now. There's tons of minimum guys. There's at least 100 guys who fit either the category of minimum player or rookie. He is neither. And he is one of the worst. That's terrible. Okay. You look at guys like Chris Boucher. I don't think Chris Boucher's had a great season. I don't think he's having a terrible season. I think he's just kind of overpaid for what he provides. Being out of the rotation despite making, a healthy sum of money. I mean, right now it would be hard to say there aren't 5 or 6 rookies / minimum guys who are massively outperforming him. I mean, forget top 10 rookies. I'm talking like mid first rounders, second rounders. You're just not winning on the margins. In terms of his fall off, last year he was a 0.1 box plus minus. This year he is a negative 2.4. He was a 0.7 value replacement. He's at 0 right now. His true shooting is down 3%, 2.5%. His 3-point attempt rate is up. His usage is static, right? In terms of win shares, he's absolutely nowhere near on track to do what he did last year. I mean, take a look at the per 100. What's really sticking out here? Nothing. He's just less efficient across the board. Not from an 18 PER to 14.7. That's 3 points above league average to 0.3 below league average. So you're just losing enough value across the board that any value that Scotty's adding. And then, of course, when you do a cross comparison on the player you lost last year in Fred VanVleet versus the players you added this year, sum total, right? Gary Trent Jr. plus Dennis Schroeder, Jalen McDaniels plus Grady Dick plus Dennis Schroeder was supposed to, in aggregate, and Otto Porter coming back, in aggregate was supposed to make up for Fred VanVleet. And it could, if those guys played up to expectations, if they didn't regress so badly in the case of Gary Trent Jr., and maybe if Pascal Siakam and OG Anunoby were playing on par with where they were last year. At this point, you should ask yourself the question, if so many guys are struggling, right, in terms of impact and efficiency, what's the common link here? And I think you can throw it back to you were running your offense through a player who has no business having the offense run through him and Dennis Schroeder. I think that would be low-hanging fruit, but it's probably the most accurate statement because it's weird when you isolate individual true shooting or individual, efficiency at the rim, and everything's better. Look at Pascal Siakam. Pascal Siakam he has been assisted on 53% of his shots. Last year it was much lower than that. He was getting a lot of his own shots. It was hard. It was not very creative. This year the offense is creating easier shots. Guys are just not making them. Okay, we got Coach Mo. I want to keep this under 2 hours. I would love to keep this under 2 hours. So hopefully this conversation goes 20 minutes max. Coach Mo, what's up?
Yeah, you basically got to the main issue is Dennis. I actually missed most of the first quarter because for some reason I thought the game would start at 7:30. So I got my setup, and then I'm like, the hell are they playing for? And then I realized, oh, they're in Philly. But I watched the fourth quarter, and I was like, Darko's putting in Dennis a little early. And I remember I just had a thought to myself. I'm like, is Dennis going to play like the last 10 minutes? Or is Darko putting him in to pull him out? And then I saw the rotations, and I see Scotty at the scores table, and I'm like, Dennis has been playing almost the entire fourth quarter. Is Scotty coming in for Gary or Jakob? Or is he coming in for Dennis? I had a feeling it was Dennis. The thing that really pissed me off about what Darko did was, it's like, see, I gave you guys what you wanted. You gave it to us after Dennis destroyed everything.
Yeah, he did.
It was a 4-point game. You threw your boy in. He ruined everything. And then he said, now you're down 13. Here's the lineup everybody's been begging for, but it's too late now.
Yeah.
These possessions where he just dribbles the ball. Bro, if this dude rolls the ball up one more time,
I just keep waiting for it to roll out of bounds once. I kind of want it to roll out of bounds once so he'll stop doing it.
Bro,
or I want someone to steal it. But no one ever has.
I want a Raptor to boot it while he does it and get a turnover.
Scotty just come up to him and just kick it out of bounds.
Watching Dennis play lets me know we have no dogs because they let this happen. How do you let a guy bring the ball up the court, dribble, then make his first pass with 14 seconds left on the shot clock consistently? How? Calling his own number. Even when he scores, it's like, okay, he's doing well, but the team isn't. Like, even when he gets a couple of assists, it's like the team isn't doing well, though.
What do you make of the first quarter start?
I never saw it.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. They have. Maybe you're like an epic jinx.
Yeah,
is that possible? You're the jinx. You didn't watch the
start. They had a great start.
and they had a great. Okay, no more watching Raptor games for you from now on.
So, what do you think about Darko going away from Dennis? And here's my main issue with Darko is he's not reactionary. It's all premeditated. So it was already preordained that I'm bringing Dennis in early in the fourth. It wasn't like, I'm going to feel this out. I'm going to adjust. This guy doesn't have it tonight. This guy's rolling. It's all Excel spreadsheets. It's all, we talked about this, and come hell or high water, we're going to try this 5 to close this game.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's like you're not actually coaching. You're just there. And you call a timeout when you need to call a timeout, but you don't really change anything. You give a speech, you tell somebody to smile, and you roll them back out there.
Yeah, I mean, fair enough.
No adjustments. Like, no pun.
He did adjust today. I mean, he played auto.
What I mean is, like, there's no, when you said the other day on the live, there's no punishment for bad effort, bad performance, like none. And here's the thing that actually disgusts me. So Dennis didn't play the last, 5 minutes?
Yep.
He played 34 minutes today. Tell me it wasn't preordained. 34 minutes and you didn't close?
Yeah, so he got him his minutes and then he didn't get him closed. But then, like, I wonder if, for instance, like let's just say for instance, like he leaves and the Raptors close the gap and we're at 3 minutes, would he check back in? Like it was out of reach, right?
Of course. He said, "Here you
It
go."
was pretty much out of reach when Dennis checked out. So it could also be stated in a weird way that I pulled Dennis out. Like if you're thinking about the conversation he has to have with Dennis about this to explain to him why he wasn't on the court with the closing lineup, you could also say, I just wanted to pull you out for a breather. And by the time I would have put you back in, I had to put in the garbage guys because the game was out of reach. But had they closed the gap within 8, I would have put you back or something of that nature. And of course, there's only so many aneurysms one can have in one game before one loses brain cells. And honestly, like I feel like I almost know for sure that had they closed the gap with Dennis off the court, that he would have somehow found his ass
They did
back
when he was
onto the
off
court.
the court. We played so fast. We played so fast.
We did. What I'm saying is, like, when Dennis came back in the fourth quarter to start the fourth quarter, right? And I also was kind of shocked. I was like, huh? He usually sits out a little bit longer than closes the game. This is a little bit weird. So I fully expected him to play out the rest of the minutes. So when Scotty came in for Dennis, I was a little bit surprised as well. Thank you so much, Leanne, for the super chat. Really appreciate it. Also, Leanne, big shout out. She was the first person to buy Pendance passes. Super cool. Pendance passes are on sale now on pendancefilmfestival.ca. Pendance is happening February 22nd to 25th. Definitely come out, watch some awesome films, and come support independent artists around the world. It'd be cool. Okay, so I get that plug out of the way. What was I saying?
He's like, he never. I don't know if he was doing this in LA, but it's like somebody gets the rebound, and it's like instead of running, he just stands there and says, "Can I get the ball?" While everybody runs up the court. Like we just play so slow. And
yeah,
no one says anything to him.
No, for sure. And I mean, like when Scotty pushes the pace, and we see other teams struggling, really struggling to keep up. Especially, the thing that I hated about this game for sure was that you could see Joel Embiid was not in any position to move laterally.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
Spread him out, isolate him, and attack him. You motherfucking idiots! Why don't they do this? But I'm just seeing like no effort to do this, and I have to go back and see the tape and just see, like, did they deliberately go? But one thing that I think may have happened when Precious Achiuwa checked in the game, Pascal Siakam went over to tell him something. I wonder if he said he's limping, attack him, and Precious Achiuwa did. For all intents and purposes, Precious Achiuwa did. He attacked him in transition and whatever. What I'm surprised by is just, like, number one, how bad the defense is. Number two, how much Dennis crawls the pace of the offense. These are the problems that you need to clean up. And honestly, like, if Dennis Schroeder just does not play this game, I think you have a better shot.
I agree.
I think you have a better shot in almost every single game.
Malachi Flynn's not an NBA player. That dude's not an NBA player.
It's debatable. It's debatable.
It's not debatable. It's not.
Okay. Actually, let's play the game with you that I was trying to play earlier, which is, we wave out everybody and see what you would actually pay.
I enjoyed the Siakam Poeltl start for this team. Absolutely hilarious.
I was shocked. I fully expected him to start for at least 10 teams, but then when I actually got to those teams, I was like, oh my god,
bottom 10 starting center. He's a bottom 10 starting center in the league.
Oh jeez.
It is what it is.
But look at how efficient he's been.
Huh? It's 2024.
Fair. But look at how efficient he's been from the field. So here's the thing. 72% on so let me do the math on this one. 72% on 2-point field goals, right, is equivalent to what in terms of 3-point field goals, right? So
like what, 45?
Yeah, pretty much. Okay, hold on. Times.
But the problem with Yak is the volume isn't there for it to like be so great, right? It's not like he's shooting 15 of them. Like, what is his shot attempts a game, right? Like if you shoot 100%, but you only take 3 shots a game, like.
So basically, like, points are points. It doesn't matter where they come from. If a dude shoots 100%, from 2, right? Mid-range 2.
1.5 points per game. And he averages 1.5 points per game, but he shoots 100%. He's never misses.
But it's not about 1.5 points per game. It's points per 100 possessions, points per attempt, etc. So in terms of Jakob Poeltl, like he is effectively a Jakob Poeltl 2-point attempt is worth more than almost every player on this team's 3-point attempts.
Yes.
Which is important because there's a lot of bigs out there who shoot 57% from 2. But he's shooting 71%. That's got to count for something, right? Rebounding has been good overall. Rebounding is decent. His turnover percentage is ridiculous. But overall, his rebound, let me see, 17% total rebounding is second on the team behind only Precious Achiuwa at 17.6. That's decent. Let me just take a look at where Jakob ranks across the league. Okay, now I want to do this game. Hold on one sec. Let me pull it up a little. Pull up the screen.
I do agree. Jakob struggles. He's a better player than Dennis. I just think Dennis makes him so much more worse than he really is.
I definitely think he's a better player than Dennis. He's way better than Dennis. Okay, so
not fit at all.
I take out Scotty, Pascal, and Jakob and Dennis and OG. Actually, let's keep Dennis in. And yeah, let me just take out those 4 players. So I'm going to pretend that you are a GM out there. Don't be a hater. Just try to be as realistic as humanly possible.
Yeah.
And just tell me what you would sign these guys for in the open market. If you had like $80 million of cap space, you could sign whoever the fuck you wanted. Precious Achiuwa, how much would you sign him for? You tell me what you would sign him for. I'll tell you what I would sign him for. And let's pretend all of these are 3-year deals. So what times what?
Okay, so I'm not going to be difficult and put like, am I the Hornets or am I the Denver Nuggets? You know what I mean? So let's just say we're middle pack.
No, let's give you an actual team that you are.
Because I think more if I'm the Hornets. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I don't want you to consider roster fit too much, right? Okay, fine. Let's pretend you're the Raptors.
Am I a contender or am I a bottom feeder or am I a play-in team?
You're like the Indiana Pacers.
Okay.
So you're fringe. You're the middle of the middle of the middle.
If I'm a contender, these guys are all min 1 year. If I'm a contender.
Oh my God. Okay.
We know that.
All of them. Okay.
All of them.
Yikes. Okay. So SP saying Precious 45 times 3. Okay. That's in line with some expectations. Okay. Where would you be on Precious if you're the Indiana Pacers?
There's no way I'm giving Precious that much. Precious.
He's 24 years old and he's almost at 0 box plus minus.
I think what's fair for Precious? 3 years, 33. I think that's fair for Precious because there's still some upside. He's durable, and if you're especially your team without like versatile wing big, he's like really valuable.
Okay, so technically, right now he's underpaid then, relative to what he's making right now. He's making like $3-4 million right now. So like, yeah, he's underpaid. Dennis Schroeder,
dollar store OG for like the Kings, the dollar store Pascal in terms of.
I keep telling Leo, like y'all should want to trade for Precious, but he's just like Precious is the dumbest player in the league, and I kind of agree with that too.
He's actually worth a lot to you.
He probably would be, yeah. Dennis Schroeder.
I think we overpaid.
I do too.
I think it looks like we overpaid because we're overplaying him, so it's getting worse and worse, right?
Yeah.
But what was he got 2 years at like 13 average? I'd give him.
You got 2 years.
3 years.
I think he got 2 years, 25.
Okay, he's like 3 years, 28, 29. There's no upside.
So basically, Gabe Vincent money. I agree.
Yeah.
Okay.
He's not a 6th man, by the way. This guy's 7th, 8th guy. Like I
think he's like an 8th, 10th. But sure.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
Garrett Temple.
6. Some people are saying 6. He's not 6.
Yeah. Garrett Temple.
Min.
Yep.
Min. And
Chris
nothing
Boucher.
Beyond nothing beyond
Chris Boucher.
Chris Boucher, I wouldn't give him min. I think he's better than min.
Okay.
But I still think he's overpaid. He's not worth 11. His IQ is too low. And like he's too old.
Would you pay him Kem Birch money? Basically 3 years, $18 million? Or
Here's
3
a
years,
question.
24.
How many minutes are you comfortable with him playing on a nightly basis?
10, 8.
Whoo! So how much do you pay a guy playing 8 minutes?
I mean, consistent 8 to 10 minutes plus like injury insurance. I don't know, 6
He
million,
is
8
durable.
million.
He is durable. I'll give him that.
I mean, if mid-level exception is 12 million right now, and he's a mid-level exception player right now. Technically, you paid him before the mid-level went up, so technically he's making what other mid-level exception guys are making. He's making a lot less than guys like Max Strus, rightfully
I think.
so.
Okay, so right now he's appropriately paid. Right now, you're
You
telling
think
me
you think so?
in the modern NBA, a guy playing 10 or less minutes a night and not guaranteed minutes on certain nights.
He's
Yes.
31 years old, my dude. People forget that because he started late, but he's 31 years old. So to me, 31 years old, negative 2.4 box plus minus. I got issues with, like some of the stuff that he's got questionable IQ. There's questionable versatility.
Questionable
There's
shot selection.
all of it.
Everything.
So like to me, he's not too much above a dude who makes $6 to $7 million. I would be comfortable with 26 across 3.
That's good.
Which,
that's good for him. That's
yeah,
good.
so 26 across 3.
Are we handing out the Messiah player option specials?
No, team options. This time, team options. We reverse it. Okay, Otto Porter.
Okay, so you're getting the vet leadership. You got high upside if he stays healthy.
Plus, you got the positive defense.
Yeah. I would, but the injury factor brings him
Injury
down.
factor, shooting, championship experience. There's upside, there's downside, there's whatever.
I think the upside and the intangibles are at this point basically being outweighed by the injuries at this point. So his salary will take a massive hit because of that.
Yeah.
Unless you're like the Detroit Pistons and you just need an adult in the room, then you pay him. But generally speaking, I'd give him like $6 million a year. I just don't trust him.
So 3 years, 18 million, which is kind of close to what he got, which is 2 years, 12 million. Okay.
Yeah.
Thaddeus Young.
Minimum.
Yep, I agree.
Minimum.
Malachi Flynn.
Not in the NBA. What's the minimum in the G League?
It's $12 an hour. Okay.
That's what he gets.
Okay, Jalen McDaniels.
Minimum.
I think he'd be out of the league. Okay, Gary Trent Jr.
Gary Trent Jr. Now, I'd give Gary 3 years, $50 million.
Wow. Okay, cool.
I think
I would give him less.
Maybe 3 years, 45, but I just think this is a guy who's averaging 18 on pretty respectable efficiency.
Yeah, this comment kind of made me laugh. It's so inaccurate, but it's so funny. Gary G. League Jr. I don't know why.
I like Gary, man. I like Gary, and I just feel like he's being done dirty. I honestly do. Like he's not helping himself, but man,
yeah, he's limited. He's a gunner.
Right now,
limited.
Jordan Poole's limited.
Be honest, right now, him or Kelly Oubre Jr. Right, and it's like Kelly Oubre is a minimum guy.
For the price, it's not even a debate. But you mean the players in general?
Well, that's exactly it, right? It's like you look at these guys and you're like, okay, like what are other teams paying for these fringy, gunners off the bench? And it's like I'm seeing, like a Chris Duarte. Like I understand Gary is in theory better than Chris Duarte. Duarte has all the injury issues, et cetera, but similar-ish, And I mean, you could make a case that Chris Duarte is like a $4 million, $5 million a year guy right now. So it's like, it's tough, man. He's not moving the needle for me defensively too much. I think that's an issue. He's not like, there's like 50 to 60 guys in the league right now shooting above 38%.
Rob.
From 3. You understand that?
I'm giving him
he's shooting 35. He's shooting below league average on 3s, bro. And he's coming off the bench.
Yes.
So it's tough. I mean, the upside, the only reason I could even think about your contract as being fair is because he's 24 years old.
Yeah, it's 16.6 million a year. He's actually getting a demotion in salary.
Fair enough.
You know what I mean?
And I mean, like, I wonder what the market is for him, because honestly, to me, he's a mid-level guy right now. Like, if he hits the market right now, like as he is, he's a mid-level guy.
Is he better than Dennis Schroeder? Just a question.
Yeah.
Okay.
But that's the thing. Like, he's making more money than Dennis Schroeder too, you know, like.
So you have a feeling about the starting lineup? Any hunch?
I mean, I think it's interesting that Darko Rajakovic seems pretty intent on trying these Scotty plus no point guard lineups recently. He's been doing that a lot. So that to me is like, is he gearing us up for that to happen? Right?
I just never understood the hesitancy on it. Like, what are you scared of? All we do is lose games. What's worse? We're gonna lose another game? You know what I mean? Like, what's the difference between 7 games below 500 and 8?
Sure.
Because Dennis is a tank commander. Scotty ain't. That much we can guarantee.
Yeah. Break down here. Let's see. The Raptors are currently spending. That's interesting. I mean, they have so many positionless guys, so it's really hard to say what they're spending per position, etc. But let's see here. The Raptors are spending $41 million at the guard position, $99 million at the forward position.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
That's without.
And $21 million at the center position.
And that's with Scotty's rookie contract too.
I know. So they really, I mean, you know, surprise, surprise, you know, you're struggling at the guard. And I mean, relative to other teams, if you were to sort, I don't know if you can sort this. Can you sort this? Yeah, you can. Beautiful. In terms of teams that are spending money at the guard, the Raptors have the lowest amount of money being spent at the guard position than anyone except for the Philadelphia 76ers, who just lost James Harden and are basically paying Tyrese Maxey on a rookie contract. That's number
next year.
Exactly. He's up for an extension next year. He's going to make $40 million. So really, it's going to be only the San Antonio Spurs and the Raptors that basically are paying this amount of money for guards.
Yeah, and the Raptors aren't paying rookies. They're just.
I mean, they're paying Malachi Flynn, Grady Dick. They're both on rookie contracts. They're paying Dennis Schroeder, who's on exactly. And then the vast majority of that money, weirdly enough, is being paid to a guy that can barely crack 20 minutes in your rotation, which is Gary Trent Jr.
If Dennis was an actual starting guard and we were paying an actual capable starting point guard, we would be like nowhere. We wouldn't be in the bottom like 6.
Well, look what happens when I sort for forwards. There's only one team in the league that pays more to their forward rotation. And by the way, that's Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown.
Centers? Where are we in the center? Where are we in the center? Where are we in the centers?
Middle of the pack. But you notice,
no one pays centers.
Well, Minnesota pays centers. They're paying 3 of them.
Minnesota's pays centers.
And I mean, look, this makes sense.
Denver, basically.
Rudy Gobert, tons of money. Joel Embiid, tons of money. Nikola Jokic, tons of money. Dominating, tons of money.
and Williams and the Williams extension.
Fair enough. Bam Adebayo, tons of money. And then you're at 30 million. Everyone else is under $30 million for centers, which makes sense because center is one position. But if you were to, okay, let's just look at small forward. So small forward, Raptors are kind of in the middle. Power forward, naturally, the Raptors are second in the league in terms of paying power forwards. Man, they love their power forwards. So Siakam being the highest paid among them. I wonder who else is included in that. It would be Thaddeus Young. He's a power forward. So that's Siakam plus Thaddeus Young plus Boucher plus Otto.
Yeah.
That's it. That makes 70 million. That's shocking. But yes, we are the second highest, and the first highest is the team with literally the best power forward in the NBA, and Anthony Davis. So, you know, it's tough. And in terms of shooting guards, we probably are bottom-ish. We're okay. What about point guard? Point guard? We should be the bottom in the point guard, right?
You know,
We're close.
the thing that's so strange, like we were pretty decent in defense. Like we weren't this bad. I don't think we've had a stretch of defense this bad in a while, right?
Facts. Well, last year when Siakam came, no, actually that's not true. Last year, I think 4 games after Siakam came back, it went in the toilet. Yo, this has happened once a year, like clockwork, every year for the Raptors for the last 4 years.
Extended amount of time.
It's usually 4, 5, 6 games. This has been about 12, 13, 14 games, 15 games. It's been a long time. But the defense has been going down. It's been nosediving for a while now. And yeah, it's a little confusing for sure.
And I don't think. Do you think the only way we get out of this funk if we just play with more size? Because I swear to God, sometimes I just don't see the point in playing Malachi Flynn. Because he's not the defender he was made out to be, and then he provides no size, and he's not really providing much on offense. So it's like, at least with someone like
Eric Koreen said that if Eric Koreen said that if Javon Freeman Liberty was healthy, Malachi might be, he might be pushed for his rotation spot. Okay, let's see here. Huh. I think Siakam makes $37 million. Why is he making 34? Interesting. Okay. So in terms of our second highest paid guy is Jakob Poeltl, then OG Anunoby, then Gary Trent Jr., then like those are 5 guys. And I mean, I can't think of like those guys aren't worth that money. They're just not. They're not. Siakam right now is honestly playing like a $24 million a year guy. Jakob is playing like a $14 million a year guy. OG is probably playing like an $18 million guy.
Mm-hmm.
Gary's playing like an $8 million a year guy. Dennis is playing like $8 million a year guy. Boucher's playing like a $6 million a year guy. Scotty's playing like a $35 million. Yo, one factor that I really, I heard yesterday on a Twitter space, and I was like, wow, I'm glad that somebody said it because I haven't thought about it, was look at how much we've wasted. Fred VanVleet, right, was criminally underpaid the last 3 years, 4 years, right? Relative to production, that's a huge asset on your books. You were getting top 12 point guard play at $18 million a year, $20 million a year, I think, whatever he was making, $20 million? I think he was making $20 million. So you take that. OG Anunoby has been massively underpaid, like one of the most underpaid players in the league. You take a look at a guy like Alex Caruso right now. OG Anunoby was like, relatively speaking, that underpaid. So he was giving you like $30 million of production per year, despite injuries, at $18 million. Then you have 2 years of Scotty Barnes at $7-8 million, where he's giving you at least $20 million of production every single year relative to the minutes he's playing. And you still couldn't win because you had all these other contracts that were killing your cap space.
Yeah.
All your fringe contracts like Boucher, Thad was $17 million like 2 years ago. Like Goran Dragic, eating up your cap space. Kem Birch. Like, these are where you lost. You know what I mean? Because you had these value contracts. Siakam really has not lived up to his contract. In my opinion, he has been, barely scratching $30 million of value every single year, and he's been paid 34. So he's kind of like, I don't want to say he's negative. Like you could argue last year he was right around a $34 million player, but this year he just hasn't been. But it's like you've wasted you've wasted Scotty, OG, and Fred all being criminally underpaid because you've overpaid other guys. You've kept these kind of like inflated contracts on the bench, and it's sad, man. Because you look at guys like, next year OG is going to get paid $40 million to be probably as good a player as he's been the last 3 years. I don't see some seismic jump coming from him. Fred VanVleet right now is being paid $42 million by the Rockets to be a worse version of the player that we had. And look, they're over 500 with a bunch of kids and Dylan Brooks. So how is it that we weren't able to do this? That's frustrating.
They blew the brakes off the Mavs today. Destroyed them.
In fairness, Luka didn't play, Kyrie didn't play, nobody played.
Yeah, and for us, that would have been a death match. But
I think we would have killed the Mavericks. Some of these teams, when they rest like 3 starters, they don't have a chance. Unless, of course, you're the Utah Jazz facing the Detroit Pistons, in which case you still have a chance somehow. But yeah.
People are like free Cade. It's like, okay, whatever.
I personally do not understand how he is getting a pass in all of this. I really don't. He's leading the league in turnovers. He is terribly inefficient. I don't get it. I don't. Yeah. JLA Media saying, but Rob, why do you want to be average? I want to be like Celtics. Well, then draft, really, really well. And, you need another Scotty Barnes for that. Probably.
But yeah, so Fred had a motto. It was called bet on yourself, right?
Mm-hmm.
Our front office has a motto. It's called bet against yourself. So
yeah. No competing offers for Kem Birch. We'll give him 18 million, no problem. He's Canadian.
We can't let these guys go outside and see what's really out there. Crickets.
You know what's crazy? Kem Birch is Canadian. This whole notion of having to overpay guys to play in Canada, the guy's literally from the country that you're overpaying him to play in. What was his competing offer? The Magic fucking waived him in the middle of the year. He was a minimum guy. He got waived.
It was kind of like that. What was that Knicks player who had one good series in the playoffs, and they
Jerome James.
Yeah, him. And
he didn't even have the good series for New York. He had it for Seattle.
Yes, and it was like Kem Birch played well.
Jerome James played way better than Kem Birch played. By the way,
I'm just saying, it was like,
and he did it in the playoffs.
It's kind of like
to Jerome James.
You remember when Flip Murray just lost his mind for like a month? Remember that? Remember Flip Murray?
Yes, I do.
He lost his mind, and it's like if he lost his mind playing above his head in like April,
yeah,
and then you just paid him like that was him.
Yeah, no, I agree. Yeah. Anyway, Coach Mo, any final thoughts, man?
We're gonna win tomorrow.
I have a feeling, yeah.
I don't know if it'll be a blowout. I hope it's not a blowout. I hope it's a narrow victory, and Darko can reset the clock on. I need 2 games to decide. Just the whole thing. We won't get a lineup change unless we lose like 5 in a row.
I don't even think you get a lineup change then, because there'll probably be some other excuse.
Oh, here's a question. Do we get a lineup change if the Pistons
we lose to the Pistons? Bro, at this point, I tell you, there is no greater New Year's
I hope we lose
gift.
to the Pistons. If he hasn't changed the lineup before the Pistons game, I'm rooting for us to lose to the Pistons. This is the funny thing. I want mud on Darko's face. I just want him to look so dumb. So,
I don't even want him to look dumb. I just want him to look in the mirror. I want him to really consider. I mean, we can lose to the Pistons. I don't think people realize how bad, but man, the relentless trolling that would occur.
Oh, Rob, my dream is Pistons keep losing, all blowouts. They're just getting beat behind the woodshed, and then we play them, and we lose a close game, and Dennis plays like the Heat game, Dennis. Oh, I'd be so happy, bro. I'd be so happy. I won't even be on the live. I'd be partying. I'd just go outside and party. I'd be so happy. And then we'd watch him start the next game, by the way.
I mean, if he starts the next game after losing to the Pistons, then, I mean,
then we need a loss in
then he has the nudes.
Yeah. Then we need a...
he has the compromising images if that happens.
Yeah. We need to hire
honestly
PR
though,
first.
as much as I'm saying that it would be hilarious if they lost to the Pistons, there's also a part of me that's just like, I don't know how much more of this I can take, because let's be real, there was a period of time where as a Raptor fan, you got to hold your head up high among other other fans, Indiana fans. Now you got fucking every fan base. You got Houston fans that are just like, what do y'all know? You're trash. I hate this. I hate it so much. So I don't even want to know the level of vitriol that would be existing towards guys like Scotty, Pascal, etc. And I mean, like, yo, if you lose against the Pistons, what happens to the trade value of Pascal Siakam if he struggles in that game? Because you know for a fact, here's the thing. All games are not equal. National TV games are big. Every single Pistons game right now is national news, okay? Which is why, by the way, no one is losing to this team. I have a very strong feeling right now that if you believe, correctly so probably, that they are the least talented team in the NBA, okay, let's assume that's true, which I don't necessarily even know if that's true, but let's assume it's true. I think Portland's close, but I mean, Portland's got like some talent.
Pistons have every single lottery pick. Their roster is all lottery picks.
Sure, but they don't know how to win. And they're psychologically damaged right now. That entire team is psychologically damaged. So what I'm saying is, look, this is national news. Them against the Raptors will be one of the most watched league pass games. I'll be surprised if it's not.
Because
honestly,
the record game.
Bro.
It's the record game, yeah.
Bro, it is the record game. Not only is it the record game, I'm telling you, yo, I'm seeing Pistons articles in the New York Times and the Wall Street Journal. So what we need to understand here is this is from an analytical perspective. Like, this is red alert. Every team that goes up against this team is seeing blood because no one wants to be the team that loses to this team. See, at some point, you just become so bad that you actually become important. If that makes sense. The Charlotte Bobcats went through this as well. There is a phenomenal video. Oh man, I'm forgetting what channel created it. It's that channel that creates a lot of these videos, and it's called the Men You Pay in Shorts, and it's like a 2-hour video on the entire Bobcats season where they won like I think 6, 7, 8 games, however many games they won that year. It was awful. They had it was incredible, and it covers like every minutia, every detail, every interaction, every controversy that happened that year that led to that team being that bad. But the thing is that when you faced the 4-win Bobcats, everyone fucking focused in because no one wanted to lose to that team. Mm-hmm. So if they go on a little bit of a run in the first quarter, everyone perks up. They're like, nah, fuck no. We're not dealing with this because the media storm for the team that loses to the Pistons will be so enormous. You will be trolled mercilessly. No one wants this.
Lakers lost to the Spurs after they lost, 17 in a row? But it's not the Pistons.
It's not the Pistons.
And it's kind of okay, I guess, to lose to Victor Wembanyama. I mean, he beat KD and the Suns. So
maybe, yeah. But there's something about this Pistons team because of it's a combination of so many things. Number one, it's a combination of the fact that no one expected them to be this bad. It's different when it was the process era Sixers and they were trying to be bad. But with Cade and Monty, right? Like right now, you change.
And they signed vets. And they have some vets on the team now.
And they have some vets. And Bogdanovich is still like a serviceable NBA guy. And they have a couple of young players that people really like.
Joe Harris.
Right.
They tried.
Right. So and look, I mean, if you take 2 points out of the equation. Number one, let's say Cade is injured right now. Nobody cares. They people like they don't have Cade. No wonder they're losing. It wouldn't be such a big story. But the fact that he's playing and putting up numbers and they're losing has people very curious because a lot of people rated this guy as a really good player. Some people, I'm not kidding. I talked to some people earlier this year before the season started. They're like, he's a top 40 player in the NBA. I nearly lost my fucking lunch. I nearly lost my coffee. I was like, bro, he's not a top 100 player. What are you, crazy? And they don't get it. So the numbers, I think it's like forcing people to really critically evaluate like who he is as a prospect, but also like what's going on. Take number 2 equation out, to take the second part of the equation, which is Monty Williams getting this massive bag, like $72 million or whatever the hell he got to coach this team. Crazy amounts of money for a guy who's a pretty good coach. Expectations were definitely that this team would be competing for a play-in spot if Cade was healthy. The fact that they have lost anything close to 24 games in a row, 25 games in a row, is absurd to an extreme degree. I think what's even more absurd is who they've lost to over that stretch. They just lost the Utah Jazz without Lauri Markkanen.
Do you know what's crazy? So they're 2-26. They started the year 2-1.
Facts.
They started the year 2-1, and Pistons fans were over the moon. And their schedule was the worst the easiest thing I've ever seen in my life to start.
I will give you the greatest stat that will make you both laugh and cry. Are you ready for this?
Go ahead.
Chat, are you ready for this? You better give this video a like if you like this stat, okay? Do you know how many days the Pistons spent over 500 this year?
Probably 2.
Correct. Do you know how many days the Raptors have spent over 500 this year?
Oh, God. Is it the same number?
It's 2. They've spent 2 days over 500. Both teams have been over 500 for exactly 2 days.
You know what else is too? With our luck, Otto's never playing. Coloco's never playing. You know who's going to play every freaking game? Every freaking game, he'll be available. But when you talked about the pride we used to have as Raptors fans, it sucks listening to like sports media, basketball, YouTube channels, and everything. And when the Raptors come up, they're just confused. They're just like, we're like a joke. That sucks. That's like, it's like Raptors topic. It's like, oh, here we go. They're just gonna say, what are they doing? They messed up. Front office is asleep. Yada yada yada. I just want to trade to be over. At some point, it's like, I'm not even as concerned as getting it over with as what we get, but just get it over with. Like,
would you trade both OG and Siakam to the Atlanta Hawks if it ensured that you get back DeJounte Murray, Onyeka Okongwu, and Bogdanovic?
What if you don't get DeJounte Murray? What if you get Onyeka Okongwu, Kobe Buffkin, AJ Griffin, Bogdanovic, Hunter?
Money doesn't work. Too much money.
Hunter. I tried it. It works. Because Hunter and Bogdanovic together.
Oh, you're adding Hunter in place of DeJounte Murray.
Yeah.
But you're adding AJ Griffin and Kobe Buffkin?
AJ Griffin, Kobe Buffkin, Onyeka Okongwu, Bogdanovic. We take Hunter, but they have to throw in like 2 picks because they're getting OG and Pascal. Now, obviously, wink wink, they have to resign, right?
Yeah, I mean, tough sell.
I think
that's interesting. So first of all, like if you do a stat by stat comparison between Hunter and OG right now, they're actually ridiculously close. Ridiculously close. And Hunter is actually younger. That's the crazy part. So, you know, I mean, the Hawks fans swear he's a good defender. I swear he's kind of mid, but he's been relatively even with OG right now in terms of like value, replacement box plus minus, true shooting percentage, 3-point shooting percentage, everything. He's pretty much having the same season as OG, in fairness. Onyeka is the big fish for me in this, but AJ and Kobe and Onyeka coming back in the same trade, yeah, I'm for it. Yeah, I would do that.
Yeah, but I think we can also get a pick for that. Because now we're pairing
and they're giving you Bogdan. They're giving you 5 rotation players, bro, for 2. I mean, I don't know if you get picks for that. Sorry, they're giving you 4 rotation players and 1 prospect because I think AJ is a rotation player.
Yeah, but
Onyeka is a rotation player.
You know what we're giving them? We're giving them Trae Young, which they have. They have Murray, which they have, with OG and Siakam.
No, fair enough. I mean, you're giving them a contender for sure.
Yeah, that foursome right there.
And they got Jalen Johnson and Clint Capella.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
Yeah, they're keeping
and Sadiq Bey.
Yeah.
Right? They're still 8 deep.
All I'm saying is we need your pick for 2024 to at least say the Siakam trade wasn't a complete failure. We need the 2024 pick back.
Damn, homie, that actually would work. And I mean, that's interesting. Bogdanovic is great. Like for I mean, he's not a guy who's about to fall off a cliff anytime soon or whatever. Like he's good and he's on a contract for a couple years, 3 years, I think, at a reasonable deal. Hunter is a guy who I'm coming around on a little bit as at least a serviceable guy off the bench. I think he could be fine. He could even start in a pinch for you.
Yeah.
AJ Griffin I love him. Onyeka is awesome. And Kobe Buffkin, I have mixed feelings about him, but I haven't seen enough from him. I certainly liked him as
He ain't Malachi. Now, if this trade goes down, do you even play Malachi Flynn?
No, never again.
Does Jakob Poeltl start?
Let's see. No, I would start Precious.
You wouldn't start Onyeka Okongwu?
Oh shit! Yes, I would start Onyeka. So I
let's
would start
start-
Onyeka. Hold on, Onyeka. Okay, what would be our new starting lineup? At the 1, Scotty. At the 2, Bogdanovic. At the 3,
Hunter. Just to get it over with.
I would start Griffin. I would start Griffin. So I would start Griffin at the 3. Bro, I would start all 4 Hawks with Scotty. That's the funny part. I would start all 4 Hawks with Scotty.
I'd start Hunter. And Hunter would be one of those guys where he plays like 25 minutes. He ends like half the games kind of situation, right?
Or maybe what about this? What if you pull AJ and Grady off the bench, right, with Dennis? I mean,
oh my god,
and Kobe Buffkin or something, play small. And what if you start Precious and Onyeka? I mean, this would be terrible because you would never score, like in a million years. Like you need some scoring. Like I mean, for everything Pascal Siakam is not, there's some things that he is, and he's better than all those guys at scoring. So really what you're doing with this lineup is you're kind of going Scotty with cutters and shooters, right? Which could work. Also, I think AJ Griffin and Bogdanovic have a little bit more ball skills. So maybe I stand corrected on that. DeAndre Hunter is not really a downgrade over OG Anunoby offensively. Defensively, he's a bit of a downgrade. And Onyeka is at least capable of shooting some threes. You know, he may not be shooting them at a really high clip, and he's an elite defender, and he's a good roller, and he's a really smart player. Also, really, he's friends with Scotty, which helps. I would love that team. I would support the hell out of that team. Yeah, absolutely. I would do it. Yeah.
You got to cut the cord at some point. You got to do it.
Yeah, and I mean, think about this. Like off the bench, you would have Grady, Trent, potentially. Grady, Trent, Kobe Buffkin, Otto Porter, Precious Achua. You'd be so deep.
And now if we lose, we're
Boucher. Cool. You still have Boucher. Holy shit! Like, and now you can possibly Jakob Poeltl. We didn't trade Jakob Poeltl in this trade. So you got Jakob on the bench too. You literally go 12, 13 deep now. So now you have to you could do a 3-for-1 type of deal.
Yeah. If they have like a Kings type of owner a couple of years ago, yeah, you can pull this off easy.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just like where the Nets owner, where it's like I just want talent. I don't care if they're over the hill. I just want to contend now.
Yeah, SP saying Dennis and Jakob for Ayton and Rupert. I like Rayon Rupert a lot. I can't stand DeAndre Ayton. Can't stand him. It might still be a worthwhile trade just on asset value alone, but like I cannot stand DeAndre Ayton. I don't know what it is about him. It's just like watching that clip of him missing 3 layups with the game on the line. Ugh.
Is he an asset?
Who, DeAndre Ayton?
Yeah.
At his current money, I'd say no.
Meaning, yeah, me too. No.
Rob, finish your thought about the third team. I don't remember what thought about the third team. What was their third team? What third team? Yeah, I mean, look, like I like this idea of consolidating, OG and Pascal or Pascal alone or whatever. I like, OG has flashed some. See, every single player on this team is showing potential growth in some area, right? Like Jakob is 6% more efficient from the field. This is relevant to me. Precious Achua has finally cracked the, I am now I'm not overwhelmingly positive, but at least, for this month, he's been a net neutral to better than average player who's actually knocking down some threes, right? Like, this is a guy who's shooting 15%, 17% from 3 earlier, who's got himself up to 31%, which means that for at least a little while now, he's been shooting close to 40%. So I look at a guy like Precious, Malachi, even though Malachi, the floor is very, very, the ceiling is very low. I'm seeing like everyone is showing something new. So I just keep thinking to myself, like, is this team going to turn it around at some point? Could they? Is it one tweak away? Is it the Dennis for Gary? Is it just that simple that you just change how those guys play together and then suddenly it just all clicks and suddenly we're talking about a team that rallies off 8 straight? This team is certainly talented enough. It's not a lack of talent. Pascal plus OG plus Scotty should not be 6 games under 500. It's just the combination of talent, the lineups that they're playing with, and the effort on defense that is tanking.
How many games under 500 before it's over?
I thought 6. In my head, I thought 6. And I look up today and we're 6 games under 500. So, maybe a trade happens tomorrow. Look, the Rudy Gay trade was executed. I believe we were 6-12.
But that already happened. That happened like mid-December?
It happened early December.
Yeah.
So we are now late December. I believe for the last couple of years, there have been no deals done in December in the NBA. Seems to be a rule that is going around. Also, I think there's some unwritten rule about trading guys around Christmas that you don't do it. So yeah, I mean, my thought process would be trading before you go to the Pistons game. So like December 28th, the final day that you can trade Siakam with that extension window still open, you trade him literally on that day. That should be the day. If that day passes with no news, I'm suddenly like, oh my God, we're going to keep these guys. Because I have my thoughts about like how many different names are out there in terms of like bigger names than Pascal, like Donovan Mitchell. And if teams start getting distracted by those guys, like Donovan Mitchell, Zach LaVine, Pascal Siakam, OG Anunoby are the guys that are...
Lauri Markkanen.
Lauri Markkanen. That's 5. Now, if I have to place Pascal on that list, he's 3rd. Or maybe 4th, behind OG, Lauri, and Donovan in terms of prioritization of assets, which is not where you want to be, because ideally, the same thing that the Atlanta Hawks are dangling for Siakam is pretty much the same thing they're going to be dangling for Lauri Markkanen. You don't want to be the team that's offering the second best prize at the party, right? You never want to be the second. You want to be first. So if a team is looking for an alpha scorer, like yesterday I was taught, and look, DeMar DeRozan, Alex Caruso, all these guys could be on the move too. There's also other players like on teams where, maybe a team like the Cleveland Cavaliers, maybe they think about moving Jared Allen. Maybe they see a long-term future of Evan Mobley at the 5. They've tossed away so many draft picks for and look, like we're looking for young players and picks, right? In all of these trades, we're looking for young players and picks. Guys like Onyeka Okongwu, AJ Griffin, these are young players. Kobe Buffkin, young player. Picks from the Sacramento Kings, we're looking for multiple first-round picks, etc. Keegan Murray, whatever we're looking for, we're always looking for young players and picks. But every team is looking for young players and picks. So when you consider that, you consider the fact that you don't want to be the team offering the second most in-demand power forward, because I cannot think of a team out there. Like, think of all the teams that need Pascal Siakam and ask yourself, would they rather have Lauri Markkanen right now? He's younger.
Yeah.
He's a better shooter.
We would certainly.
So that's the point. Like, most teams would. So it's like he's younger. He's more efficient. Like, I mean, he's got less miles on him in theory. Like, I mean, it's like you could definitely sell yourself on Siakam being the better player, but not by much, not enough to make up for the fact that he makes more money, and the fact that he's older, and the fact that he's kind of already said that he's not going to extend. So I mean, there's a lot of concerns there. Plus, like, Lauri is more portable, so it's the same argument as OG. I can just kind of plug and play him. So if the Atlanta Hawks want to, add some spacing, or even if, everyone's talking about the Detroit Pistons. Oh, the Detroit Pistons want to trade for OG or whatever. Tell me they wouldn't rather trade for Lauri Markkanen right now?
No, they would.
Right? They could trade Jaden Ivey plus a first-round pick plus, I don't know, something, and get Lauri Markkanen, if provided Danny Ainge is interested in what they have to offer, and then they can get some spacing around Cade. Why is that not way more appealing than Pascal Siakam? So I think the Raptors, once again, are not factoring in that there will be other teams that are dangling their guys. And what if things don't work out in Atlanta? What if Atlanta continues to lose? Will DeJounte Murray be on the market? Well, now you have another guy who you're competing with. I was having a conversation with my boy Leo yesterday, and he was talking about how he prefers Alex Caruso and DeMar DeRozan over Pascal Siakam. And I could certainly see why. That's a like, I mean, you can sell yourself on having those two guys over Siakam.
And a cheaper price tag.
That too, right? If the Raptors continue to ask for an arm and a leg, multiple draft picks, etc., and they're not going to sell low because now there's all this pressure on them too, right? They've been holding out on this trade so long. There's a lot of PR. negative PR. And of course, there's always the potential that Pascal goes off to another team and does very well with the other team, like Indiana or Sacramento. He's going to do phenomenally well in terms of the numbers and efficiency and, just enthusiasm of being in a new place. And those teams are going to be potentially rallying towards the playoffs. And now you have the added PR of your shit team. And now you have to watch the guy you traded average 30 points per game in the playoffs. Whew, that could be tough. So that's where I'm coming at this from. It's like, it's like you've waited so long to make this trade, and now the market is starting to thin out in terms of how valuable your guys are. And with every passing day that OG kind of like continues to regress, I wonder if teams are looking around at them saying, is this guy this much better than the guy I already have? It's worth asking.
All right, man.
Yeah. All right, man. Have a good one. Peace out. Always interesting. All right. Make sure to hit like and subscribe to Pensari Basketball. We will certainly see you tomorrow after the Utah Jazz game. As I mentioned earlier, Pensari Basketball. Everything I run is with pen. So Pensari Films, Pensari Basketball, and Pendance Film Festival. The Pendance Film Festival is happening at the Carlton Cinema February 22nd to 25th. It will be in the winter. There's almost nothing else going on in Toronto at that time. It's super cool. There's going to be people coming in from all over the world to talk about their films. It's really cool. Every person I've talked to that's gone to Pendance has talked to me later about how impactful these films have been in terms of shifting their mind on one thing or another. Stories matter a lot. You've often seen me wear a hoodie that says story over everything. That's Pendance. So if you're looking for a gift or a stocking stuffer for the cinema lover in your life, or the movie lover in your life, definitely go over to pendancefilmfestival.com. It says 2024 Fest, and the tickets are there. Passes are there. Individual tickets will go on sale in a month when the films are down. But yes, I'm looking forward to it. I'm going to be working a lot on it. Hopefully the Raptors turn around their season tomorrow. Is it too much to pray that the Raptors have a different starting lineup tomorrow? Probably they're not going to have any starting lineup tomorrow, but damn, it'd be nice if they did. I do think that this Darko experimenting with Scotty at point, he's been doing it over the last 3 games consistently. There have been like 4-minute run, 5-minute run. Today he closed with Scotty playing point. Hopefully they can look at this data and say, hey, teams are not pressing. Teams are not trapping in the backcourt. Teams are not, forcing super high turnovers. This lineup could work. What I find to be quite hilarious is they could have just looked at tape of this working last year. They don't need to waterboard us into this. So yeah, Leanne saying it was so amazing to go to Pendance in May. Thank you so much. Yeah. Hopefully better every year. We started in 2017, 430 people in a snowy night in December, and it's been carrying on ever since. And yeah, I'm looking forward. We had to go virtual in 2021 and 2022. That sucked. Last year was our first live event in a while. So this year will be the full. Leanne saying the films I saw were so life-changing. Thank you so much. Oak Tree saying Embiid cried like a pickney on our floor in 2019. Never forget that. He hasn't. Yeah, it's personal, right? All right, guys. Take care. Have a great one. And yeah. Give this video a like on your way out. Helps more people see it. Cheers.